This story begins with the destruction of the Namun clan, which the girl annihilated by order of her master. Night. In the yard and on the stairs leading to the mansion, there are many dead bodies. The girl asks, why? Her knees buckle, and her hand grips the sword tighter. She raises her gaze to the man who just pierced her chest with a blade and asks, why did he do this? There is no anger in her voice, only a desire to understand. The head of the bloody sect, the bloody demon, whose eyes sparkle with red lights, replies that her life must be ended so that his will may be fulfilled, otherwise not. Without taking her eyes off him, the girl says, what is he talking about? Driving the blade deeper into her body, the man sighs mockingly. Oh, does his disciple really understand nothing? Leaning toward her, he almost whispers in her ear. It means that she is the only survivor of Namun. Pulling away from her, the bloody demon asks, does she know who lies beneath her feet? The girl shifts her gaze to the person he points to. The man answers his own question. It is her father. He pulls the blade from her body, and a trickle of blood flows from the corner of the girl's mouth, while splashes from the wound sprinkle everything around. Her eyes glaze over. Pushing the girl away, the man says that he even refused the position of clan head and wandered as a convoy commander, hoping to find her. The girl kneels, supporting herself with one hand on her sword and clutching the wound on her chest with the other. The man continues. When he told him that the girl was his daughter, he withdrew the inner energy he used for the attack. The head of the bloody sect mockingly asks, isn't that touching? A sorrowful moan escapes from his victim's lips. In the girl's mind, who does not take her eyes off the man, chaotic thoughts rush through. She thinks this is all quite strange. The head of the bloody cult treats human lives like flies, yet he raised her for quite a long time as his disciple. As if reading her thoughts, the man says that he raised her by his own power for this day. Rising above her, he adds, for the moment when the arrogant Namun clan will be destroyed by their own hands. The bloody demon laughs loudly. He celebrates his victory, which took more than a year to achieve. The girl's head bows very low. It seems her forehead is about to touch her knees. Her hand grips the sword hilt tighter, which she leans on. She asks him to stop, saying, enough, then adds, how boring. The man agrees with her. Yes, that's right. Raising the blade above her head, he says that he was just beginning to lose interest. The bloody demon, calling the girl his disciple, says it was fun. A fountain of blood shoots upward. Thoughts slowly fade in her head. So foolish. What did she hope for? Following someone who knows nothing but blood. Blood is all that remains. The young head of the bloody cult sect, the heaven-slaying sword, For Ilwa, this was the last thing left in her life. A drop of blood falls into a puddle. The girl slowly and reluctantly opens her eyes. She is lying in bed. She was awakened by the sun rays falling on her face. Looking at the window in the roof, behind which the sunlight is visible, the girl wonders, is she alive? She puts her feet on the floor and rubs her eyes with her fist, thinking, could someone really have saved her? She feels her body very light, as if she had not been wounded. Ilwa notices a basin of water on the table and leans down to examine her reflection. An exclamation of bewilderment escapes her lips. What is this? The girl is surprised that her face is too young. It dawns on her. This is herself in childhood, possibly around 10 years old. Listening to the noise behind the room doors, Ilwa decides that she is in a hotel. Cautiously, she slightly opens the door leaf. Approaching the railing, the girl sees below a hall where people are sitting at tables. Their voices reach her. Someone is being reproached for drinking so much at such an early hour. A man in a burgundy shirt asks his companion, have rumors reached him? Astonished, Ilwa hears him say that the Namun clan has again increased the reward for whoever finds their lost child. The man's companion replies, well, they are really persistent. At the same time, he thinks, impossible. He did it with his own hands. But aloud he says, what are they hoping for? Trying to find a child who disappeared almost 8 years ago. The girl listens attentively to the conversation, afraid to even move. She thinks, 8 years? Since she was 5 years old, she was raised by the bloody demon. If what they say is true, she is now 13 years old. Meanwhile, the man at the table continues reasoning. The only clue they gave was the birthmark on the neck. He is sure it will not be easy. Ilwa thinks, if the Namun clan had fallen, these people would not be sitting so calmly. Is it possible that she returned to the past? Walking down the street, already dressed and armed, the girl reflects. She believes the bloody demon left this scar on her neck to hide the birthmark. It turns out his words about picking her up unconscious from a sword wound were lies. Looking at her palm, she thinks, she must have no memories of childhood because of his internal energy, which, as the bloody demon claimed, he placed in her to save her. No matter how hard she tries, she still cannot remember her childhood. One thing the girl knows for sure. She is from the Namun clan. Looking at her small childhood palm, she reflects that perhaps it is the influence of some great martial art or sorcery. She does not know, but she was given a second chance. Now she has the opportunity not to become the bloody demon's toy, like last time. She must prevent him from consuming the central plains. Ilwa decisively clenches her palm into a fist. She makes the only right decision. The girl wants to return to the house she destroyed with her own hands. But first, then her gaze is attracted by sweets on sticks. Approaching the counter, Ilwa asks, "Is this tasty?" The merchant is surprised by such a question. Raknam-ken, the lair of the Black Cloud clan. Someone is knocking insistently on the door with a fist. A small window opens. The persistent guest advises the person on the other side of the gate to look down. Lowering his eyes, he asks, "Did she knock?" The man sees a girl devouring sweets on a stick. He orders her to leave. There's no place here for little kids. Ilwa insists, saying she has an appointment with their leader. The man irritably replies that she has lost her mind. Or maybe she wants to die. Does she really think the leader of the Black Cloud would meet with people like her just because they want to? Ilwa stretches out her hand and resorts to the power of inner energy. She thinks, so this is the level of power this body can produce. The gates shatter into splinters. Stumbling, the man says, "What the?" Several people rush to the gates. The man, scolding the girl, asks, "What is she doing?" Entering the yard, Ilhwa says that this place hasn't changed a bit. She thinks that in her past life she killed everyone. But now, belonging to the Namgun clan, there is no need for that. The cheek of the shouting man is burned by a strike. A needle, thrown by Ilhwa's accurate hand, scratches his face. She asks everyone present to try to understand her the first time. Blood flows from the wound on the man's cheek. Slightly to the side of his head, a needle sticks out of the board behind him. The girl orders to inform the clan leader that the young master from Huaru has returned. She tells the armed men, ready to attack her at any moment, that she is here to take what was spoken of. Ilhwa asks, "Where is the great rebirth pill?" She thinks that now she must follow the righteous path. But first, she needs to steal the great rebirth pill and expel the energy of the blood demon from herself. The martial arts of the blood cult sect are perfected through the abduction of blood and life force from various beings. Naturally, the internal energy of the practitioner becomes defiled. The girl thinks that she cannot return to the Namgun clan with such chi. She will be lucky if she stays alive, let alone be accepted back. Ilhwa walks through the courtyard. The murderous energy surrounding her is palpable even from a distance. Armed men cautiously avoid her. The Great Rebirth Pill is a miraculous pill that Shaolin secretly passed to the Hashan clan. That is what will help her. The girl thinks, if she had that pill, she could cleanse her internal energy. People, sensing her monstrous thirst for blood, dare not attack her. Stopping, Ilhwa remembers that in her past life she gave the pill to the blood demon, or as he is also called, the Blood Lord. This time everything must be different. She only needs to get it just like then. Before Ilhwa bows a young man in the traditional greeting, the lower part of his face hidden by a piece of cloth. He greets the young lady and asks her to follow him. He adds that the clan leader Black Cloud is expecting her. Ilhwa settles on a cushion in the middle of the red carpet path before the clan leader. On both sides of the path, on similar cushions, several men are seated. The girl states her name and greets the leader of the Black Cloud clan. The leader admits he did not expect the famous lady of Huaru to be so young. The girl replies that she cannot stop admiring his aura, overshadowing all possible rumors. The man notes that Lady Huaru is very polite and asks, so why is their lord so reckless? Ilkva's face darkens. She thinks that the bloody demon, having obtained the great pill of rebirth, has become their common enemy. So the man's anger is justified. But she, taking the blow upon herself, does not like it. Out of the corner of her eye, she studies the surroundings. The clan leader, 8 elders, and 150 fighters. But the girl is confident in her abilities, and the number of opponents does not embarrass her. She, remaining kneeling on the cushion and leaning on her hands, bows, almost touching her forehead to the floor. The girl apologizes for her lord's actions. She begs the clan leader to calm his anger. In response, she hears that he does not need empty words. Without raising her head, she promises. If he visits their estate, Huaru, she will do whatever he wishes. The man asks, who do they take him for? Ilkva, still not raising her head, answers. She believes that the head of the Black Cloud cannot be wrong in his decisions. Armed men have already gathered behind her. Raising her eyes to the clan leader, she says that many of his people will die. The man replies, just as she herself will pay with her life for the sins of their leader. From all sides, warriors armed with blades rush towards Ilkva. Her hand reaches for the sword hilt, located in the sheath attached to her belt. She accelerates so much that only her blurred silhouette is visible. The girl moves extremely fast from one opponent to another, leaving corpses behind her. Out of the corner of her eye, she notices a warrior rushing at her with a raised blade in his hands. She jumps high up, and the man's sword cuts through the empty air. Puzzled, he raises his eyes to the ceiling, trying to understand where she disappeared to, but Ilwa is already appearing behind him. The bloodied sword in the girl's hands radiates a deadly aura. Ilwa says that she gave them a chance. She again easily glides across the hall, leaving behind the dead bodies of opponents. A shout sounds, calling to kill the girl immediately. The clan leader looks confused. Watching how Ilwa fights, he wonders, could it be that he lowered his guard because of her youth? The girl's leg, kicked up, hits the opponent's head. The clan leader thinks, no, it's not that. He knew about the bad reputation of the blood cult and therefore prepared. And not only he. Everyone concentrated their energy, watching the girl. Ilwa deals with another attacker with a sword strike. The clan leader wonders, then why? The gazes of Ilwa and the clan leader meet. Her eyes are full of cold determination. The man jumps up from his seat and shouts, "Stop!" Everyone freezes. The clan leader realizes that their guest is not so simple. She must have already reached the stage of Banrawandong, a state of supreme enlightenment, allowing the return of a young body through reincarnation. He asks the girl to put away her sword, then shouts, "Pill!" Kneeling before her, he says that they will give the great pill of rebirth to her. Ilwa's hand squeezes a small red pouch. Standing surrounded by trees, the girl, hiding her loot in a secret pocket, thinks, he decided faster than in the previous life. It would have been better to give it right away. After all, she tried to be polite. Sitting on a tree branch, she thinks, I wonder if there is a place here where she can calm her chi. Pushing off the branch with her feet, she rushes forward. Ilwa swiftly moves through the air. Some movement behind her catches her attention. The girl realizes that she is being followed. She quickly descends to the ground. Raising her head up, Ilwa says, he doesn't even try to hide. He better come out. She looks intently at the top of the tree. The man sitting on the branch says, she did the right thing by not drawing her sword. He calls her a clever girl. Ilwa looks at him in amazement. This is one of the 3 strongest of the Namun clan, nicknamed the God of Wind and Lightning, because he is as fast as the wind and as destructive as lightning. Before her is the head of the secret sect of the Wind Sword, Sop Mugwan himself. The man asks, who is she? And adds that depending on her answer, he will decide whether to kill her or let her live. The girl continues to silently study him with her gaze. The man sits on the branch, dangling one leg, and looks attentively at Ilwa. The girl, looking at Sop Mugwan, wonders, is he undercover? And laments that she had to encounter him at such an inopportune time. She quickly makes a decision and folds her hands in a traditional greeting gesture, understanding that she has no other choice. Bowing her head respectfully, the girl says that she, Ilwa, pays tribute to the recognized master and the greatest legend of martial arts. She decides that she has no choice but to reveal the real name given to her in a past life by the Namun clan. The man is clearly surprised. He asks confusedly, Ilwa? Jumping down to the ground, he calls her a funny brat and asks, why would he be her master? He has never taken anyone with such a disgusting aura as a student. Leaning towards her, he inquires, how old is she? The girl answers, she thinks she is 13. Sop Mugwan asks in surprise, thinks? She doesn't even know her own age? The girl, turning her back to him, replies, it so happened that all memories before the age of 5 are lost. She can only reason about her age based on what she has heard. The man looks at Ilwa puzzled. Seeing a scar on the back of her head, he asks, where did she get it? The girl answers that she does not know. Sop Mugwan asks, who taught her martial arts? She explains that until now she served Lord Huaru in Yunnan, who also trained her. The man understands correctly and says that, judging by her words, that is no longer the case. Ilwa replies that someone tried to kill her. Sop Mugwan, taking a few steps, stands face to face with the girl. He says that the thing she carries could poison her. Ilwa answers that even if it is dangerous, it is still necessary to cleanse her internal energy. The man asks, why? Why does she need to cleanse her inner energy? Looking into his eyes, Ilwa explains, because if she returns with such power, her family probably won't accept her. He asks, does she even know where her hometown is? Ilwa answers him, it's Hefei Anhui province. The man ponders, of all possible places, Hefei. The top of the Namun clan lives there. For some time, Sop Mugwan reflects. Then, placing his hand on the girl's shoulder, he says, all right. Smiling, he declares that as an exception he will help her. Ilwa is surprised. What? Patting her on the shoulder, the man says, to handle breath and energy, a protector is needed, right? That way she can recover successfully. He explains that he will guard her. Ilwa thinks, so he is taking guardianship over her as if she were a missing child. This annoys her. The leader of the Black Cloud clan, with the blade's tip pressed to his throat, stammers, what exactly? He is sitting on the floor, and in front of him stands a warrior with a sword. The leader shouts, why is he doing this? They didn't agree on this. The warrior, whose lower face is covered with cloth, and whose bandana embroidered with a red bird is pulled low over his forehead, so only his eyes are visible, asks, "Where did he hide the item?" The frightened leader repeats, "Hid it!" He explains that the young lady Huaoru took it less than an hour ago, continuing to threaten him with the blade. The warrior demands that he describe her appearance. Stammering, the leader says, "A girl, about 10 years old." He puts away the sword, and the man breaks into a cough. The warrior exchanges glances with several other people dressed like him. Then he gives a short command, saying that they need to leave. They leave the leader of the clan's mansion at such a speed that against the night sky only their blurred silhouettes flicker. The leader of the Black Cloud clan breathes a sigh of relief, surveying the devastated hall. A little earlier, the man bends low over the floor. In front of his face lies a black rectangle tied with a purple ribbon. The leader respectfully says, "Young lady." Ilhwa, having received the great pill of rebirth and holding in front of her a red pouch in which it is contained, says, "When she leaves, let her order her subordinates to clear out of here and run as far as they can. Assassins from Huaru will soon enter here with force." The man asks, "Won't she give them the great pill of rebirth? Why would they attack them then?" Ilhwa replies that she is no longer one of Huaru. She explains that they won't have time to blink before Mount Hashan and Shaolin begin to destroy the Black Cloud clan. Then Huaru will extend a hand, claiming to offer help. The confused leader says, "What nonsense is she talking?" Ilhwa, ignoring his words, continues, "But their goal will be to kill the leader and absorb the power of the Black Cloud clan." She warns him not to fall for the deception. The girl, handing him the black rectangle tied with a purple ribbon, says, "And finally, let her take this. From this moment for 7 days exactly, let her follow the instructions written here." She throws the envelope on the floor in front of the man, saying that this is the only way to protect the Black Cloud clan from Shaolin and Mount Hashan. Remaining on his knees and looking at the envelope lying before him, the leader thinks, indeed, a formidable little girl. He wonders, how many steps ahead can she really calculate everything? Drops of sweat run down his face. Ilhwa and Sop Mugwan stand before a cliff, lost in the forest thicket, raising their heads and carefully examining it. The man says, "This is where he trains. No trails nearby. Everything is heavily overgrown, so finding this place is not easy." He asks, "Perfect, right?" The girl, looking him in the eyes, asks, "Is he seriously satisfied with this?" He is surprised by such a question and clearly expected a different reaction from Ilhwa. She says, being a bodyguard means he will have to stay with her while she controls her breathing and directs her energy. Ilhwa does not quite understand why he is helping the girl he just met. She thinks she has no solid proof that she is the granddaughter of the Namgun clan leader, but the man is still very courteous. Sop Mugwan, raising his index finger, replies that he has his own reasons. How to say, pointing the finger at her, he admits that he completely despises people who carry a dirty aura like hers. The man, folding his hands in a prayer gesture, palm to palm, says, and since she strives to cleanse it, he finds that quite commendable. And, knowing her desire to return home, he even feels sorry for her. He asks her not to burden her mind with unnecessary thoughts. What matters now is that she will be reborn. Ilhwa, looking him in the eyes, thanks him, then adds for finding this place and bringing her here. For everything. A radiant smile appears on the man's face. He tries to pat her on the head, but Ilhwa dodges. Sop Mugwan says she shouldn't die. If it comes to that, maybe he can help her. She replies that she can manage on her own. Sop Mugwan says, yes, that's what he thought. Folding his arms across his chest, the man says that although she looks like a 13-year-old girl, there is not a hint of sweetness in her. If she is going to be reborn, she should do something about her rough manner of speaking. He adds, she will soon meet her parents, and if the long-awaited child speaks so coldly, it will break their hearts. The girl thinks that it will indeed seem strange. Well then, Ilkva, moving away from him, says, all right, she understood everything. He asks, does she have a favorite food? She answers, Tangaloo. The man, smiling, says, it turns out there is something childlike in her. When she disappears from his sight, he adds that he hopes, if they live long enough, they will meet again. Ilkva, sitting in the cave, examines the great pill of rebirth. Then she decisively throws it into her mouth. Ilkva sits in the lotus position, immersed in meditation. She feels the inner energy surging like the sea. If the energy of the blood is compared to a stream, then pure energy is comparable to an ocean. She commands herself to concentrate. Even the best medicine at the wrong time can become poison. If she fails to remove the blood energy, or there is a disruption in the circulation of internal energy, a chi deviation may occur. Energy circulates around the girl who thinks. A little more, faster and stronger. She lets it pass through her palms, striving so that not a single trace of blood energy remains in her body. Energy literally rages around her, but Ilhwa continues to meditate. The expression on her face becomes tense. Blood-red energy surrounds the girl. A trickle of blood flows from the corner of her mouth. She thinks, as expected from a power grown on blood. Although she tries to remove it, it stubbornly clings to her and does not disappear. Ilhwa believes this is very similar to the control of the blood demon. She thinks she will never let him play with her again, at least in this life. The girl exhales. She managed to cope with the blood energy, and now a pure aura pushes back the blood-red energy. Mentally, she addresses the blood demon, saying she will not allow his plans to come true. Night has come. Sop Mugwan, chewing a blade of grass and admiring the stars, says, "It's time for her to leave." He is clearly worried and thinks aloud, expressing hope that nothing happened. The girl's blood vessels did not twist, and she did not fall into deviation. Nervously stamping his foot, he wonders, could he have been wrong to leave such a tiny baby alone? He suddenly stands up and turns his head, looking at the cave entrance. A smile appears on the man's lips. He breathes out with relief. Looking at Ilkva coming out of the cave, Sop Mugwan says, "Truly an amazing child." Stretching, he says, "Great job. She finally got rid of that disgusting energy. Now she should feel refreshed." Ilkva thanks him for guarding her all this time. The man smiles and hands her a paper bag. The girl takes it in her hands, curious. "What is this?" Sop Mugwan replies that it is a congratulatory gift for surviving. He asks, doesn't she want to open the bag? The man watches her actions carefully, wondering. It seems that the girl not only got rid of the nasty energy but also strengthened her inner energy. He thinks that, considering her age, this is truly admirable. Meanwhile, Ilkva puts her hand into the bag. Ilkva holds a tangaloo in her hands. The man, smiling, asks, how does she like his gift? Judging by her facial expression, she is delighted. The girl thanks him. Sop Mugwan thinks that he should be the one to say thanks. Mentally, he adds, for surviving. Enjoying the sweets, Ilkva looks at him questioningly. The man suggests going to the village. Since she hasn't washed for 3 days, she needs to soak in a warm bath. He picks up the girl in his arms. Ilkva is surprised. Has it really been 3 days since she entered the cave? Sop Mugwan, smiling, asks, isn't she hungry? He promises that he will specially introduce her to Hefei's signature dish. Then he tells her to hold on tight. He won't be responsible if she falls. The man forcefully pushes off the ground with his feet. He rushes through the forest at incredible speed, holding Ilkva close to him. They quickly leave the forest boundaries and stop at the edge. Ilkva sees a village ahead and breathes a sigh of relief. She has finally reached Hefei. Sop Mugwan and Ilkva sit at a table, in the middle of which is a large bowl of dumplings. Looking at it, the girl thinks, is this the signature dish? The man says he ordered a double portion especially for her so she can eat as much as she wants. The girl says she has no appetite after eating tangaloo. Sop Mugwan, who is devouring noodles, looks up from his plate and looks at her in surprise. Ilkva looks sad and depressed. Sop Mugwan is worried. The man asks, what does she think is the most common food in the inn? She answers, of course, dumplings and noodles. Placing a dumpling on the plate, Sop Mugwan confirms, correct. For such common food to become popular. Does she even realize how hard that is? Handing her a plate with a dumpling, the man says this is the best place. At first, a person tries the food without special expectations, and then finds themselves in paradise. Ilkva thinks she has already seen paradise, thanks to the bloody demon. Sop Mugwan asks her to try the dish. He bets that she will then cry and beg him to order more. Ilkva reluctantly fulfills his request. Her expression immediately changes, and she literally pounces on the food. The man, laughing, asks, how is it? The taste is simply amazing, isn't it? For some time he watches her eat with a smile. Then he tries to lift her head, bowed over a plate of noodles with his hand. Laughing, he asks her to eat more slowly. He promises to keep ordering food until she is full to bursting. On the night street, a full man, supporting a barely standing friend with his hand, says goodbye to a man dressed in a red kaftan. He thanks him for the good meal, and the man, slapping his raised palm, replies that he will then go inside. Sop Mugwan, remaining unnoticed, watches what is happening on the street. Behind him, a warrior jumps to the ground and freezes in a kneeling pose, respectfully lowering his head. Sop Mugwan, without turning around, asks, has he dealt with all the rats? The warrior answers affirmatively, calling him master. He hands the man a band with a red bird embroidered on it, saying that judging by the skills, they were not ordinary rabble, but he had never seen this symbol before. Clenching the band in his fist, Sop Mugwan replies that this is enough for a report to the head of the clan. He suggests the warrior go. The warrior asks, will he really leave the child here? Sop Mugwan answers, it is enough to simply appoint a person to watch over her. She is not so weak as to suffer serious injuries. He adds that, anyway, they will meet again soon. At this time, Ilhwa is already sound asleep in bed. Namgun Clan, Pavilion of the Heavenly Tiger. A fist strikes the surface of the table with force. A shout is heard. 300 gold ingots? The third son of Namgun Muchon, Namgun Jeongsan, is outraged. 8 years have passed. 8 years, and they have not found a single trace of this child. Why even raise the reward? Sitting in armchairs near a small table set for tea, 2 men listen to his angry tirade. For 300 gold ingots, one can buy an entire trade guild and still have money left. They don't even know if this child is alive. The second son of Namgun Muchon, Namgun Jeonghae, angrily reproaches him and asks him to watch his words. He adds, "If the elder brother Jonggun were here, wouldn't such words break his heart?" Jongsan replies that their elder brother is exaggerating. He believes that because of his long absence, all clan affairs had to be handled by the second brother. The head of the Namgun clan, nicknamed the Sword of the Heavenly Dragon and Phoenix, Namgun Muchon, decisively declares, "Enough!" He calls Jongsan over, and he stands before him, bowing respectfully. The clan head says that he is right. His brother worked for 8 years in the security bureau, trying to find his daughter. The elders present in the hall listen attentively to his words. The man continues. Due to Jonggun's absence, the position of the young clan head indeed remained vacant for a long time. Namgun Muchon asks, "So, is he resentful towards his brother?" Jongsan, without raising his eyes, answers that he is not resentful towards him. He just feels that it is time for him to return. Namgun Muchon asks, would he say the same if his daughter disappeared? To tell himself to give up searching for his child, since there is no guarantee that the child is really alive. Could he really do that? Jongsan is forced to admit that his words were careless. The clan head advises him not to speak without thinking, just because he has a mouth. The son agrees with him. Namgun Muchon thinks, a complete headache. Scanning the attendees, he realizes that in such a situation, not only Jongsan feels dissatisfaction. He wonders, perhaps someone used the easily influenced Jongsan to voice their own intentions. He decides that most likely this is the case. Drumming his fingers on the armrest, the head of the clan thinks, you can't suppress this discontent forever. But how to deal with it? His hand freezes on the armrest when he hears. They say this child has already crossed the clan's threshold. Next to the head's chair stands Sop Mugwan. Looking at his smiling face, Namgun Mujong orders the others to leave them. The clan's chief manager Namgun Mun, asks Sop Mugwan, has the child really arrived? He answers affirmatively. Yes, a very cute but prickly person will appear here soon. The chief manager sinks into thought. He asks, so is that why the meeting ended so abruptly? The interlocutor replies, it seems so, then adds, she is already here. Ilhwa, stepping over the mansion's threshold, walks down the corridor. Namgun Mun looks at the girl in surprise. Is that her? He remembers the little girl calling him Grandpa Manager. He recalls holding her in his arms. Tears well up in the man's eyes. His voice slightly trembles as he says, young lady? Looking at the moved chief manager, Sop Mugwan asks him not to rush to conclusions. A slight smile slides across the man's lips as he looks at Ilhwa. The girl freezes, standing on the carpeted path. She looks at the one everyone calls the Sword of the Heavenly Dragon and Phoenix. Ilhwa had heard that he is an incomparable master, of whom there are no more than 10 in the world. Looking at the formidable aura emanating from him, the girl thinks, so this is what it's like to meet the Dragon Claw in person. Her hand clenches into a fist, but she restrains herself and does not grab the hilt of the blade. The girl mentally calms herself. Everything is fine. He is not her enemy now. No need to be afraid. Ilhwa bows respectfully and greets the head of the Namgun clan. Namgun Mujong orders her to come closer. Namgun Mu asks, what is her name? The girl answers, Ilhwa. The chief manager says, he heard that she claims to be the child the Namgun clan has been searching for. Is that so? Ilhwa answers affirmatively. Yes, that's right. The man continues, the child they are looking for has a birthmark on the neck. He heard that she cannot confirm its presence on herself? The girl replies that she knows nothing about it. Only because a memory surfaced of how she grew up in Namgun did she come here. Namgun Mu says, a memory then. He asks the girl a question. Can she tell more about it? Ilhwa tells, a road strewn with poppies by a pond shaded by drooping willows. She remembers walking along a path covered with poppies. She was holding someone's hand but does not remember whose it was. The hand was very large and rough, but at the same time incredibly warm. She could only hold a finger. The girl falls silent. The chief manager and Sop Mugwan look at her attentively. The clan leader says, how strange. Ilhwa thinks. Finally he reacted, well, in the Namgun estate there is only one place with willows, a pond, and poppies. The garden near the clan leader's manor. Who would have thought that she would use the memories that arose when she burst into the clan leader's manor? At that time, She thought they were hallucinations caused by poison scattered in the poppy. The illusion stopped as soon as the flowers were burned to ashes. Looking at Namgun Muchon sitting in a chair on the dais, the girl says that she lost all memories before the age of 5, so this is all she has. Is that enough? The clan leader replies that poppies grow everywhere on the central plains, and a pond and willows are found with everyone who has wealth. He asks the girl, does she think this is enough to prove that she is a child of the Namgun clan? Ilwa answers that she does not quite understand what he means by that. The men are very surprised when they hear her question. Isn't Namgun looking for a child? Ilwa asks, then why should she have to prove anything? Sop Mugwan grabs his head, and sweat rolls down the face of the chief city manager as she states, she thought they would find a way to confirm her identity as soon as she came here. The girl asks, was she wrong? The clan leader's face darkens. Sop Mugwan pulls the girl back and tells Namgun Muchon that the child did not mean that. The lips of the clan head stretch into a smile. Looking at Ilwa standing confused before him, he begins to laugh. Continuing to laugh, he admits that she is absolutely right. He says, the way to prove that she is a Namgun child lies here, in Namgun. However, this cannot be done immediately. The chief manager and Sop Mugwan breathe a sigh of relief. The clan head explains, to verify her identity, they need to wait a few days. He asks, does she agree? Ilwa, smiling, answers, yes, of course. From the mansion comes the voice of Namgun Muchon, giving the order to prepare the room where the child will stay for the next few days. The Heavenly Guest House, a place intended only for important guests. Almost a year has passed since the last guest stayed in this house. And now a guest has come, for whom the clan had ordered this house to be opened, and this guest turned out to be a child. The head of the outer hall of the Namgun clan, Namgun Yon, walks behind Ilwa, who thinks she could look around herself. The man recalls the words of the chief manager, who forbade him to ask who this guest was or why he came to Namgun. He must not dig into this person's background under any circumstances. But he could never have imagined that this guest would be a child. Walking behind the girl, he says that although they have not had guests for a long time, they cleaned 5 times a day and changed the bed linen daily. If she needs anything, she should inform the servants. Ilwa listens as he tells her that the heavenly guest house is guarded by warriors of the inner hall, so she does not need to worry about security. He heard that she has not eaten yet? The girl immediately brightens at these words. The man says that she must be hungry. He asks, should he prepare food? Ilwa looks back at him and briefly answers, yes. The table is covered with all kinds of delicacies. The girl reaches for the dolma with chopsticks. Sticking the chopsticks into it, she leans over the dish, trying to understand how to eat it. The maid standing nearby asks kindly, can she help the lady? The girl answers, yes, she can. The maid takes the chopsticks and, touching the leafy triangles, explains that these are steamed bamboo leaves. She unfolds the leaves and shows the filling, saying that they give the dish the aroma of bamboo and help preserve the flavor. Only the best dishes are prepared in Namgun for honored guests, and the guest of the heavenly guest house, of course, is a priority. Ilwa says, correct. The maid, realizing, says, is she talking too much? And asks Ilwa to enjoy the meal. The girl thanks her and reaches for the dish with chopsticks. Looking at her, the maid wonders, how could such a charming child come here? She asks aloud, does she like it? Ilwa, with a full mouth, barely says, yes, thinking to herself, delicious. Lying on the bed and looking at the ceiling, Ilwa wonders, it seems she ate too much? She turns her head and looks around the space surrounding her. Lying on the bed in a luxuriously decorated room, Ilwa thinks, finally, she has arrived in Namgun. Every place and every person in Namgun looks just as she remembers, but somehow feels different, especially Namgun Moon and Namgun Jongsan. Ilwa sinks into memories. With a sword in her hands, the girl stands before the wounded chief manager. She says she will ask once more, where is the secret Namgun technique? Looking at her with hatred, he replies that even if she tears off all his limbs, he will never betray Namgun. She might as well just kill him. Clenching the blade in her hand, she rushes at him. The man says, even if he has to go to hell, he will take revenge. Bringing her face close to his, she whispers, all right, they will see what he says after she tears off all his limbs. She carries out her threat. The severed hand of the man flies aside. Blood splashes dye everything around red. Wielding the blade, Ilwa thinks, what a useless resistance. She believes it is all over and does not understand why these people still resist. 13-year-old Ilwa lies on the bed next to her sword. She wonders, why does she feel so unwell? Because she stands before them and talks as if nothing happened. Although nothing really did happen. Lying on the bed, she thinks, so far, nothing has happened. Everything is fine. She will be able to prevent it. The clan leader sits at the table. To his right and left are the chief manager and Sop Mugwan. Namgun Mujong clarifies, does he mean that this child is involved in the affairs of Hashan and Shaolin? Sop Mugwan says, yes. Earlier they were informed that Hashan and Shaolin seemed to be secretly trading the Great Rebirth pill. Everything turned out to be more complicated than they had assumed. Supporting his head with his hand, he adds, "The Black Cloud sect does not pose a threat. This little girl single-handedly ruined their operation, so she knows a lot." Sop Mugwan says, "The real problem is how they defeated the Hashan elite and stole the Great Rebirth pill. The Black Cloud sect lacked the strength, so probably someone from outside intervened." He calls out to the clan leader, who is lost in gloomy thoughts. Sop Mugwan waves his hand to attract his attention and asks, is he listening to him? The chief manager, like Sop Mugwan, realizes, from just one report the clan leader has already understood something. A powerful force controls Yunnan and Hefei, so they need to be careful. But if it concerns the leader, he will definitely find a solution. Namgun Mujong says, he remembers people said that this child resembled him from birth. He continues, back then he could not understand how this tiny creature resembled him, but now that she has grown up, he understands. His interlocutors are amazed. They thought he was lost in thought about something completely different. The chief manager reminds him that, honestly, she is not quite grown up yet. Sop Mugwan asks, isn't it too early to claim that she is his granddaughter? He admits. Actually, he feels it was wrong to give her the heavenly guest house. Raising his cup, the clan leader replies that even a shared cup of water can create a bond for life. He asks his interlocutors, how could he not recognize someone in whom his blood flows? The chief manager says, huh? Then, Namgun Mujong, ignoring him, adds, it is wrong to say that the heavenly guest house is over the top. Rather, it is even too little. Placing the cup on the table, he asks Sop Mugwan, has he already been to that place called Huauru? The man answers, after dealing with the pursuers, he sent subordinates to Unan. They should return soon. The clan leader wonders, could this child have a hidden motive? Sop Mugwan says, it's hard to say. He wants to believe that she is innocent. The child who was the young mistress of the mysterious Huaru group. Even if Namgun blood really flows in her, there is no way to know if her heart is loyal to Namgun. Sop Mugwan thinks, who knows if her desire to return home was sincere. He says that giving up the energy she has accumulated until now is not an easy decision. Honestly, if he were in her place, he wouldn't even think about it. Sop Mugwan adds, she gave up that power and chose Namgun. Could she really have other motives? His fist slams down on the table with force. The chief manager asks, did he get attached to her during their journey together? The man objects, attached? No, that's not the case. Namgun Mu insists, but it seems he likes her. The manager turns to the clan leader saying, if he still can't believe this child, why not ask her directly about what happened in Hashan? For the clan leader, sharing a meal with a guest of the heavenly guest house is a common thing, so this is a good opportunity. After that, he can decide whether to trust her or not. Sop Mugwan says, he just feels that they can trust her. Namgun Mujong thinks for a few moments, then laughs and says, a meal with the granddaughter. He admits he's looking forward to it. Ilwa sits on the floor in the lotus position. Her eyes are closed. She is immersed in meditation. She felt this already in the cave, but her current chi is very different from the demonic energy of blood. Pure energy circulates throughout the body, refreshing every meridian. Now it is on a completely different level compared to the wild chi that craved blood. Now it is much easier to control. In her past life, she almost reached the stage of enlightenment, so in this life she can do it faster. She tells herself that she must do it. The girl opens her eyes. She has not officially studied the Namgun cultivation method yet, and understands that she should not recklessly increase her internal energy. Ilwa thinks that at least 3 people she met in the Heavenly Tiger Pavilion will find it strange if her energy increases. No matter how impatient she is, she cannot destroy the trust she has not even earned yet. But how much it annoys her to pretend that she does not know what she learned in her past life. The maid looks at the girl in surprise. She asks Ilwa standing in the doorway, does she need anything? The girl inquires, is there a training ground here that she can use? The maid answers that there is a separate training ground in the Heavenly Guest House. She asks, should she accompany Ilwa there? The girl responds with a question. Besides this, is there another place? The maid, bowing respectfully, says that as an honored guest of the Heavenly Guest House, she can use any training ground in the outer complex. She offers to escort her to the nearest one. Ilwa replies that it's all right, she will find her own way. Meanwhile, the girl thinks, if she cannot train internal skills, then instead she will train external ones. Ilwa walks through the courtyard. She thinks that instead of swinging a sword alone in a separate hall, it is better to train among other students. Even if she accidentally uses the Namgun swordsmanship technique, she can say that she copied it by observing. Reaching the training ground, she thinks that Namgun has enough courage to allow outsiders to see part of the clan's training, although these are, of course, basic techniques. Carefully peeking out from behind the column, the girl thinks, here she is. The training ground of the Red Dragon Squad, one of the 6 combat units. Students are training here now. The instructor shouts, "Great swordsmanship technique, first form." The students swing their swords synchronously. Ilwa, standing aside, watches their actions. Looking at the students, she thinks, these people are, so to speak, the roots that support Namgun. They will become the starting point for strengthening Namgun. In the clean, energetic movements, traces of endless training are visible. But this is not swordsmanship. Ilhua continues to analyze the students' actions. Simple, energetic movements, not the art of swordsmanship. Have they never fought in a real battle? If they went to the battlefield, they would most likely die before they could use their sword forms. The girl sighs sadly. She thinks, it seems they have a long way ahead. She decides to just train and steps toward the stand where training swords are placed. She is stopped by a stern shout. "Hey, where do you think you're reaching with your hands?" The young man standing before her says that there is nothing here for little children to play with. Holding a wooden sword in her hand, Ilkva asks, "Aren't there other children training here?" The young man, calling her baby, says they are different from her. He adds, and they are properly trained. And she, looking at Ilkva, he asks, she still hasn't passed the warrior's exam, right? It seems she is just an ordinary servant. You can't sneak into such a place secretly to learn something. Snatching the sword from her hands, he explains that there are not just one or two people like her. The sword is an art. Simply copying, she will learn nothing. He tells the girl, looking sadly at her empty hands, not to stand here uselessly, or she might get a splinter from the wooden sword. Better for her to go and do some cleaning. Ilkva turns to the stand and takes the sword. The young man standing behind her exclaims, "Oh, you!" He demands that she give up the sword and tries to take it from him, but the girl easily dodges his hand. For some time, he unsuccessfully repeats his attempts. But Ilkva does not allow him to take the sword. She easily anticipates his actions, and the sword constantly moves, avoiding his hands. The outraged young man shouts, how dare she ignore the adults who are talking to her? Who taught her such disgusting manners? He angrily demands, where is the servant who is responsible for her? He will personally make sure she is properly reprimanded. The girl's aura darkens. She exhales, irritating. The young man standing with clenched fists before her notices something wrong. He asks, "Hey, what is that sparkling look?" He insults her, and the girl jumps over him, kicking him in the back. He looks up in amazement, not understanding what happened. The blow from Ilkva knocks him off his feet, and he falls face down to the ground. The young man sees how the girl picks up the sword from the ground, which he dropped while falling. Returning the second sword to the stand, Ilkva says, she just thought that this wooden sword would be better, that's all. The students watching them start laughing. Calling the young man captain, they remind him that he threatened to discipline this little one. So why is he the one lying on the ground? Did he trip over his own foot? The offended young man shouts for Ilkva to stop immediately. The girl looks back at him. Rising, the captain says, it seems words definitely won't solve this. He takes a sword from the stand, saying he doesn't know what she just used. The enraged captain threatens that today he will teach her to respect her elders. Ilkva is not intimidated by his threats, she thinks. All right. Watching the young man rush into attack, intending to teach her a lesson, she decides to play with him a little. Swinging the blade, the captain threatens to teach the girl to respect her elders. Ilkva calmly waits for his approach. She, bending down, easily slips under his hands, gripping the sword. The girl strikes his knee with the wooden blade and continues the movement, ending up behind his back. She immediately turns to face the opponent and swings the blade again. The girl swiftly attacks the confused and clumsy captain. Cursing, he tries to defend himself, raising the blade above his head. Ilwa disarms the opponent with one strike, knocking the training sword out of his hands. After flipping several times in the air, the wooden sword sticks into the ground where the young man, who barely managed to jump back, was just standing. He loses his balance and falls to the ground. Ilwa freezes, gripping the sword in her hand. The young man sits on the ground, and between them, the wooden blade sticks out of the earth. The students exchange surprised whispers. How is this possible? Isn't this a one-sided beating? This can't even be called a duel. Throwing the training sword over her shoulder, Ilwa asks, will they continue? The captain grabs his sword but still remains seated on the ground. The girl says, if anything, she doesn't mind. But this time, he shouldn't underestimate her and should give it his all. Ashamed and upset, the captain stands up, gripping the sword in his hands. There is shame and bewilderment in his eyes. He still doesn't understand how this could have happened. Looking at Ilwa standing before him, he says, very well. Taking a fighting stance, the young man promises that this time he will be serious. The girl thinks, finally his gaze has changed. She knows that Namgun is strong, but truly strong are only the chief and a few masters. Not all warriors of the clan are strong, and that means that the name Namgun protects them. Unable to fight, they cannot help but grow complacent. Crossing blades with the captain, the girl thinks that hardened complacency dulls both the sword and the heart. Fighting, she admits to herself that she is somewhat interested. Striking the captain's back with a wooden blade, she wonders, can she make their hearts like beautifully forged swords? Increasing the pressure and forcing the opponent to take a defensive position. The girl reflects. Will she be able to temper and reforge those who have already lost their edge, having immersed themselves in peaceful life? Looking at the students, Ilwa thinks, do they even have the desire to change? One of the guys watching their fight exclaims in amazement. How is this even possible? The captain couldn't land a single blow. The blade in the girl's hand flashes with astonishing speed. At the same time, her face remains absolutely impassive. Of all emotions on it, only slight boredom. The young man screams, receiving a painful blow to the hand gripping the sword. Ilkva tells the panting captain, putting a lot of strength into an attack does not mean making it successful. First, let him determine how well he can control his strength. Swinging the blade, she adds, and of course, let him pay attention to speed, accuracy, and direction. An incredibly powerful strike falls on the spot where the captain just stood. The young man barely manages to jump back, but at the same time he again finds himself sitting on the ground. However, the opponent does not allow him to rest. She attacks him again. The young man manages to jump to his feet and place his sword under the opponent's blade, falling on him. Ilkva says, when he uses too much strength, his body tenses, and when the body is tense, he cannot direct the sword where he wants. And one more thing, the captain barely withstands the girl's onslaught. She strikes him on the leg just above the ankle. The girl soars into the air, holding the sword in front of her, forcing the young man to lean back. A powerful blow throws the captain far backward. At the place of his fall, a thick cloud of dust rises. When the dust settles, the young man is seen kneeling, with his head bowed low, leaning on his sword. In front of him are furrows in the ground left by his feet and weapon. Ilhwa slowly approaches him, saying that he lacks strength in the lower part of his body, which disrupts his balance. That is why he constantly falls backward. The tip of the blunt wooden sword touches the captain's throat. Ilhwa says, the earth does not tremble while she firmly stands on it. The girl lowers the sword and looks at the kneeling opponent. She wonders, did he understand her words or not? Ilhwa turns away from the captain, saying that she is leaving since training here seems problematic. The confused young man respectfully watches her leave. Watching her walk as the students part before her, he says in bewilderment, who is this girl? The displeased Ilhwa walks across the yard, thinking that in the end she attracted a lot of attention she does not need right now. Had she known it would turn out this way, she would have used the training ground of the heavenly guest house. She believes that her advice should be enough for them. It only depends on them whether they become people worthy of Namgun. Looking at her palm, the girl wonders, could it be that she also cannot control her power? Continuing to walk, she reflects. If you think about it, she has not been able to rest properly since her return. She laments that this young body is so fragile. The girl decides that today she needs to return to the heavenly guest house. Ilhwa, lost in thought and noticing nothing around her, suddenly bumps into a man standing in her way. Mentally, she curses. Ilhwa presses her forehead against the man's chest, who cautiously holds her by the forearms. She raises her head and hears a voice, "Hey, baby!" Sop Mugwan asks her, what happened? He adds that she looks so-so. Pulling away, Ilhwa replies that she is fine, just a little dizzy. She screams when the man rudely grabs her. Holding the girl under his arm, he purposefully strides forward. She demands to be put down. Sop Mugwan grumbles. She's fine, yeah. If it hurts, you need to understand why it hurts. Ilhwa asks, where are they going? Smiling, the man replies that she needs a professional examination. Entering the room, he sets the girl on her feet and holding her by the hand, says that he has brought a patient. Letting go of Ilhwa, he says, what, left again? He asked her to stay on duty as required. He asks the girl to wait a little, and she agrees. Looking at the pills lying on the table where the apothecary scales stand, Ilhwa thinks, Namgun is Namgun. The quality of the medicines is simply excellent. The skills of the head of the medical hall also seem to be outstanding. Continuing to study the medicines, the girl reflects that in her past life, she seems to have never met the head of the medical hall. She wonders, did she abandon Namgun and leave when the clan fell? Sometimes the head of the medical hall does not belong to the clan itself, so Ilkvu is not surprised by this. If they are not related by blood, then the head has no reason to stay in Namgun. Footsteps are heard. The woman who entered exclaims, oh my god, who is this lovely lady they have here? Ilkva looks around confusedly and studies her with his gaze. The woman, continuing to smile, adds, just look at those round little eyes. Leaning towards Ilkve, the woman asks, who is she? She looks unfamiliar. Looking into the wide-open eyes of the girl, she continues to be touched. What is it? She says that Ilkwa looks like a little kitten. The girl clenches her teeth tighter. What the hell? Why is this woman here? A mercenary who liked to kill cruelly using poison. Poisonous Luna, head of the medical hall of the blood cult. Sop Mugwan, scratching his head, says that she is talking nonsense again. The woman says that she was curious about what brought the girl here, but it seems she herself does not know. She adds, "What a pity," and then asks Ilkva to give her his hand. The girl recoils from her in fear. Ilwa, stepping back, hits the woman on the hand she reached out to her with. Confusion appears on the face of Poisonous Moon. The girl says that she should not touch her. Sop Mugwan explains to her. It is necessary to feel her pulse to understand what is wrong. Ilwa assures that she is not sick and does not need to have her pulse checked. The girl recalls that before this woman fell under the power of the bloody demon, she does not know where she was or what she was doing, but one must be careful with her. The bloody demon does not forgive betrayal. If Poisonous Moon is his spy, then she will definitely try to kill her. Meanwhile, the woman, folding her arms on her chest, asks, "What should be done?" The man kneels on one knee before the girl and, looking into her eyes, apologizes for bringing her here without asking for her consent. He tries to persuade her to get checked anyway. He jokingly adds, "Although you wouldn't say so, this lady is quite skilled." The woman standing behind him laughs, covering her mouth with her palm. She says that his tongue won't fall off if he calls her older sister. Sop Mugwan continues to persuade Ilwa. He knows she is incredibly stubborn, but one cannot be sure of everything. She hasn't eaten or rested properly for several days. He promises, if the girl allows her pulse to be checked, he will buy her as many tangaloo as she wishes. But Ilwa's face shows that she will not give in to any persuasion. But the girl understands that she has no reason to refuse yet. What could she say? That she was afraid of a simple pulse check? Looking into the man's eyes, she sees that it will not work. She understands that everything will be fine. Sop Mugwan is here, so Poisonous Moon will not be able to do anything. Ilwa exhales. All right. Together with the woman, they sit on the mat, and the girl extends her hand to her. She asks her not to worry, and promises that she will do everything quickly. The man kneels on the floor nearby. The woman measures Ilkva's pulse. The girl feels the effect of her inner energy, which she pours into her body. Smiling, Poisonous Moon says, "A strange feeling, isn't it?" She asks the girl to endure a little longer. Ilkva, with a lightning-fast movement, throws his hand forward and grabs the woman by the throat. Sop Mugwan rushes to them. The girl squeezes the throat of the horsewoman more tightly. Aura of Ilkva turns blood red. The man's palm descends onto her outstretched arm. He asks to release the head of the medical hall. The girl says that she wanted to kill her. She introduced her chi. The man explains that this is a usual pulse check, the Cho-Ren method, which uses one's own chi to check the meridians. Ilkva looks at him distrustfully, but still does not lower her hand. Then she still lets go of the woman, on whose neck traces of her fingers remain. The Poisonous Moon, laughing, says that this little girl has sharp claws. Looking at the girl, Sop Mugwan thinks, the head of the medical hall should have started the chi movement, and Ilwa immediately reached out her hand. Her intention to kill was stronger than that of a seasoned assassin. Without taking his eyes off the girl, he continues to think. As soon as she wants to kill, there will be no mercy. As if she had already killed many people before. Ilkva gets up from the mat and, heading to the door, says that she is leaving. She leaves the medical hall in silence, proudly straightening her back. Rubbing her throat with her hand, the woman asks, "Where did he pick up this homeless kitty?" The man answers vaguely, "Who knows?" He is also seeing such a person for the first time. Sop Mugwan asks, "What did she feel when she checked the girl's pulse? Is she okay?" The head of the medical hall answers, "Doesn't he see for himself how energetic she is?" She adds that everything happened too quickly, and she couldn't check her condition properly. She can't say for sure, but the woman says, it seems to her that the girl recently ate something. The man looks at her in amazement. Then he says, apparently, she is not wasting her time here after all. Poisonous Moon laughs. What's with him? He knows that she used to be responsible for the health of the Son of Heaven. Sop Mugwan objects. She was just an assistant. The woman replies that it's the same thing. She asks the man to bring the girl again sometime. She must properly check her health. Sop Mugwan asks, why? The head of the medical hall answers, it seems to her that the girl is like a bomb that is about to explode. Two women sit at a table in a dimly lit room at a small table. Poisonous Moon holds a long mouthpiece in her hands. Adult Ilwa says, she heard that the girl killed the other members of the blood cult. Bringing the mouthpiece to her lips, Poisonous Moon asks, did she come to scold her? Exhaling smoke from her mouth, the woman adds that she seems to have already told her about this little hobby of hers. She asks, this won't be a problem, right? Poisonous Moon asks her interlocutor, didn't the bloody demon tell anything? The girl answers, only that she is one of the 12 moons. The interlocutor says, right. She is one of the 12 moons who swore allegiance to the bloody demon. She explains that although her martial arts are inferior to the 6th blood master, She was given a secret combat technique of the poisonous clan, sealed with the blood of their lord, the bloody demon. Does she really deserve a reprimand for killing some nobody? Ilhwa lowers her gaze and answers that it just came to her mind. The girl says, she heard that Poisonous Moon was once a member of the Righteous clan, but she finds it hard to believe. The woman asks, is that a compliment? Ilhwa wonders why she ultimately joined their cult. The woman reluctantly begins to speak. Well, then, smiling slyly, she says, because she wants to kill someone. Ilhwa, sitting by a small pond fenced with railings, wonders, whom did the Poisonous Moon so desperately want to kill? She thinks that back then she was not interested, so she did not ask. If she had known she would meet this woman again, she would have found out everything. A voice is heard. It seems she is lost in her thoughts. The girl turns her head to the person who approached her. The head of the Namgun clan asks, is something bothering her, and she cannot talk about it. Ilhwa rises and bows her head in a traditional respectful bow. She greets the great head of the clan. The girl explains that she was simply immersed in admiring the beautiful garden. Namgun Mujong replies that he is glad to hear that. He adds that he has already been informed about what happened. The girl silently looks at him, waiting for him to say more. Namgun Mujong says, he was told that a child from the Red Dragon Squad pointed a sword at her. It seems his ambition has crossed all boundaries. Ilhwa replies that she was not hurt, so she would be grateful if he turned a blind eye to it. After all, it was a wooden sword. The clan leader believes that a swordsman must be careful and think before swinging a sword. He is a warrior but still cannot control his inner self. Ilhwa replies that it did not scare her. The man asks, because she is strong? The girl explains, although his inner energy is strong, as the head knows, that is not the only thing that determines power. Namgun Mujong agrees with Ilhwa. She is right. A slight smile appears on the man's lips. He tells the surprised girl that he hoped she was not his granddaughter. Clasping his hands behind his back, he adds that she does not look like a child, because an ordinary child is not capable of radiating such a thirst for murder. The clan leader adds, he sees it, the blood on her hands and the hopes for those she was supposed to protect. Ilhwa looks at the water's surface and sees herself there, but the one from her past life. Namgun Mujong says, he wanted his granddaughter to grow up elegant, to live a life away from the battlefield and grow up normally. He asks, who raised her like this? Ilhwa wonders, does it matter? The man answers affirmatively, yes, it matters. A dark aura thickens around the clan leader. He says he needs to find out who it is to hold them accountable. An energy flow begins to swirl around his feet. The man explains that he will not allow the one who did this to his granddaughter to die just like that. He believes tearing him apart will not be enough. A powerful energy flow swirls around them. Namgun Mujong says he will not forgive anyone who caused her pain. The girl asks, what if she is not his granddaughter? The clan leader's hand tightens on the sword hilt. Pulling it out of the sheath, he forcefully drives it into the tile paving the garden paths. He looks thoughtfully at Ilhwa standing before him. Namgun Mujong, looking at the girl, much shorter than the sword stuck in the ground, says to her, there is still a long way ahead. When will she become taller than Zhongmen? The girl asks, is that the name of his sword? The clan leader answers, correct. Reaching out to Ilhwa's head, he says, she was half the height of Zhongmen's sword when she held his hand and followed him everywhere. His palm lowers onto the girl's head. The clan leader suggests they have dinner together tomorrow, then adds, he heard she likes tasty food. Removing his hand and laughing, Namgun Mujong says, he will arrange for it to be prepared. The confused girl says, yes. Black energy flows through the dark corridor, enveloping the maid standing there, and rushes into the room. Sensing something wrong, she looks around and says, young lady? The dark energy stream heads toward Ilhwa sleeping in bed. The girl, dreaming of a bloody whirlpool, wakes and slightly opens her eyes. She sits up in bed and drops her legs to the floor. Ilhwa hears a question. What is she doing? Then an order sounds. Kill them. Kill them all. She takes the sword and heads into the corridor. A voice commands her to slaughter everyone in the Namgun clan and soak the ground at their feet with their blood. From behind the door, where a female silhouette is visible, the maid's question sounds. Does the young lady need anything? A bloody red aura thickens around the girl. She is puzzled. Who is this young lady? And the voice persistently demands to give it their blood. Sop Mugwen, sitting at the table with the clan head and the chief manager, addressing Namgun Mu-chan, asks, will he die if he speaks more softly? He asks the question. Tearing a person to pieces, isn't that enough? At least in the presence of a child, he wouldn't talk about such things. Namgun Moon asks him to stop. Sop Mugwan wonders. Why did he even bring this up? He wasn't trying to boast about how strong he is. The clan head, shielding himself from the men with an unfurled scroll, pretends to be engrossed in reading and hears nothing. Namgun Muchon slightly lowers the scroll and, looking over it, says, he just wanted to calm his granddaughter because she seemed worried. Sop Mugwan continues to protest. Calm her? He'd be lucky if he didn't scare her. The chief manager objects. Isn't that better than his behavior? He watches her every step and sucks up to her? Sop Mugwan asks, what else could he do? He couldn't pretend he didn't see anything. The clan head flinches and becomes alert. The chief manager asks, what was that? Namgun Muchon, sensing the presence of black energy, says, an ominous smell. He adds that he smells blood. The aura around him darkens and thickens. The sound of hurried footsteps is heard. A maid standing in the corridor, clutching a blood-stained piece of cloth to her chest, bows before the clan head, the chief manager, and Sop Mugwan. She greets them. Worried Namgun Mujon asks, whose blood is this? Tears flow down the maid's cheeks. Without raising her head, she stammers an apology and explains that this is the blood of an honored guest. The clan leader kneels before Ilwa, who is sitting on the floor. Her left hand is bandaged. Without raising her eyes, the girl replies. She couldn't sleep, so she decided to practice and accidentally hurt herself. It's not serious. Ilwa asks to be forgiven for making them worry. Namgun Mujeon says he has set a barrier and others will hear nothing, so she can speak honestly. He asks, what happened? The girl assures the clan leader that nothing happened. She just mishandled the sword and got hurt, that's all. The man takes her bandaged hand. Red spots show through the bandages. He says the bleeding hasn't stopped yet. Dabbing the blood seeping from under the bandages with a clean cloth, the clan leader says, just as much as he trusts her, she must trust him. Namgun Mujeon says, as long as she is in Namgun, he can protect her. He asks, does she understand this? Looking into his eyes, Ilwa answers that she will remember this. A female silhouette appears behind the door. The clan leader says that the head of the medical hall has arrived. The rest of the treatment will be up to her. Reluctantly releasing her palm from his hand, he adds that they will see each other tomorrow evening. Ilwa does not take her eyes off him. She understands that for Namgun Muchon it is clearer than clear that this was not an accident. The clan leader turns to Sop Mugwan, and he bows his head to him in a respectful bow. The girl wonders, how long will the clan leader turn a blind eye to this? Can she even explain it? Lowering her hands to her knees, she sinks into memories. When she came to, she already had a sword in her hands. If she had not quickly cut her hand, a lot of blood would have spilled. The voice she heard in a semi-conscious state definitely belonged to the bloody demon. Her body obeyed his command. Ilwa mentally curses. The only one who can confirm the nature of the spell now. Poisonous Moon peeks into the room, and calling the girl a kitten, asks, may she come in? The woman's face lights up with a radiant smile. Looking at her, Ilwa thinks that no matter how much she thinks, only one person comes to mind. Poisonous Moon examines the girl's hand. Smoke rises from the vessel standing next to her. The woman says she lit incense to ease the pain, but it can still hurt a little. She asks the girl to tell her when it becomes too painful. Sop Mugwan, crossing his arms over his chest, gloomily watches them, standing by the wall. Poisonous Moon applies the remedy to the wound, saying that even with such a wound the girl did not cry. She calls her a brave little kitten. Ilhua reluctantly agrees with her. The girl says that another place also hurts, and asks the woman, can she take a look? Sop Mugwan exclaims, what, is she wounded somewhere else? Poisonous Moon anxiously asks, where? Ilhua answers, around the stomach. The man rushes to them, saying that he needs to take a look. Ilhua clarifies, from the chest to the stomach. Sop Mugwan, hurrying to them, hearing her words, freezes in place. He asks the girl, does she want him to leave? The girl answers, isn't it worth it? Then Ilhua addresses the head of the medical hall, saying, she thinks she has internal injuries. Can she check it? Check. Poisonous Moon replies that she can do it, but she will need to use chi. She asks Ilhua, will she mind? Realizing that the girl does not object, the woman does not hide her surprise. She was expecting a categorical refusal. Finishing bandaging Ilhwa's arm, Poisonous Moon says, how sweet. She asks the girl, does she at least believe her a little now? She takes Ilhwa's palm, saying that she will look now, and asks her not to be too nervous. The woman's hands are surrounded by a bright aura. The girl watches her actions attentively. Poisonous Moon's eyes are closed. She is focused on the examination. Mentally, Ilhwa asks her, has she ever had the intention to kill? The surprised woman opens her eyes. Smiling at Ilhwa, she also mentally wonders, what is this sudden telepathy? And what does she mean by the intention to kill? The girl simply asks her to answer. Continuing to examine the girl, Poisonous Moon answers, there was such a time. But why is the girl interested in this? Ilhwa asks. Does she still feel it? The woman explains, no longer. The reason is dead. The girl asks, why did the woman want to kill? In response, she hears, because they attacked her beloved. Ilkva asks, does she still have a favorite? Looking at the girl, Poisonous Moon mentally says. So that's what really interests the kitten. The girl continues to ask questions. Is he a Namgun? Letting go of Ilkva's hand, the head of the medical hall replies that it is a bit difficult to answer this. One could say both yes and no. A woman asks a question. Can this be considered an answer to the girl's question? Ilkva answers affirmatively. Yes. Looking at the Poisonous Moon, Ilhwa thinks the woman has no reason to protect Namgun, but she also does not hate him, nor is there any grudge that would make her swear loyalty to the bloody demon, yet the girl does not fully believe everything Cho-ren said. In one, Ilkva is sure. The woman is in love. She thinks that now her life is different from the isolation in which she lived before, when she was killing. The girl makes a decision. The woman is sorting pills in the box she brought with her at this time. Ilkva mentally calls her the poisonous bloody queen. She says she knows her second name. The head of the medical hall looks at her confusedly. The girl thinks that this woman can also live another life. Looking into her eyes, Ilkva mentally says that she needs her help, preferably on the other side from the bloody demon. In the past, there was a time when an entire village was drenched in blood by the hands of the second prince because a low-born woman dared to refuse the prince's amusement. Nobles always loved rare entertainments, so the destruction of a whole village surprised no one. But what was unusual was that the only surviving child entered the palace as an assistant to the imperial physician, and one day the second prince died of poison. The killer of the second prince, nicknamed the Poisonous Bloody King, disappeared from sight. Ilhwa mentally utters, "So after that the woman joined Namgun? Why?" Cho-ren asks confusedly, "What did the girl say?" Ilhwa asks not to misunderstand her. She never investigated her past. The girl explains simply in her past life the Poisonous Moon loved to talk her to death. Extending her hand, Ilhwa asks the woman not to worry. She has a simple desire. The girl asks to have her body thoroughly examined. Ilhwa explains that a spell has been cast on her. The woman replies that it is called suggestion. Ilhwa looks at her in surprise. The girl asks again, "Suggestion?" The head of the medical hall, continuing to study the contents of the box with her gaze, answers affirmatively. Yes. A type of black magic that controls the mind, forcing certain actions. She explains to Ilhwa that there are two ways to break it. The first is to kill the one who cast it. The second is to succumb to the suggestion and rampage until the spell breaks on its own. Rising to her feet and looking down at the girl, the woman explains. She thinks that today Ilhwa was able to come to her senses because the caster was not nearby. She believes that if the connection is weak, it can be easily broken. But otherwise, she falls silent, then asks. The girl understands, right? Walking down the corridor, Ilhwa reflects. In other words, the one who cast the suggestion can appear at any moment and control her as he pleases. She recalls words that sounded through the bloody haze in her head. No matter how much she tried to escape, she was under his power. She would ignore his warnings, and he would come for her. She wonders, was that what he meant? The girl asks Cho-ren, now she only calls the head of the medical hall that, because she hopes that she will never become the Poisonous Moon, to find another way to overcome the suggestion. But if she just waits, it might become too late. Ilhwa wonders, what should she do? Maybe just hide in the mountains and let the suggestion take over her? As if they would let her go. Sop Mugwan has already assigned warriors to watch her. The girl decides that she needs people who can distract others from her. Something alarms Ilhwa, and she stops. She notices the captain with whom she had a clash the day before. Watching him train, the girl thinks that she needs people who can do what she cannot because of her childlike body. Studying the young man with her gaze, she decides that above all, she needs those who will become her strength, her allies. Meanwhile, the captain is enthusiastically practicing blade strikes. He vigorously swings the training sword, not noticing that someone is watching him. The young man stops. Sweat streams down his face. He exhales wearily and raises the blade before him again. The captain closes his eyes, trying to concentrate. He orders himself to remember the moment when Ilkva appeared before him. Mentally, he crosses blades with the girl. Before his mental eyes, Ilkva's face emerges. From her lips comes, "I attack," and the girl swiftly attacks him. He remembers that he saw her attack but could not block it. The young man mentally returns again to their confrontation and asks himself, why? In his memories, the words spoken by his young opponent helpfully surface, because his feet were not firmly on the ground. He now understands himself. The reason is that his muscles were so tense that his body froze. Because instead of reading the opponent's movement, he struck with the sword by inertia. As a result, under her onslaught, the young man's training sword cracked. And with one blow she knocked the weapon out of his hands. The young man remembers the moment when he released the sword's hilt from his palm. His hand clenches into a fist. He thinks that this is the difference in experience. Hunched over, the young man indulges in gloomy thoughts. The discarded sword lies nearby. The captain mentally scolds himself. What a weakling he is. He thought that, Compared to the other guards of the outer house, he skillfully handled the sword, but dropping to one knee, he raises his weapon, admitting that he is truly pathetic. He stands up, his face looks sad. Suddenly he sees Ilkva standing before him in a new outfit. The girl looks him straight in the eyes. The captain is surprised by her appearance and does not immediately pull himself together. The young man bows in a traditional greeting, addressing the young lady. Ilkva says there is no need to be so formal. He can speak to her as informally as he did yesterday. Without raising his head, the young man says, "About yesterday. He is very sorry. He took her for a new maid and behaved rudely." Ilkva replies that she is the one who needs to apologize. She felt that it was she who was embarrassed yesterday. The girl introduces herself by stating her name. The young man replies that his name is Namun. The girl takes a step toward him, causing the young man to recoil backward. She says that overnight his sword has become much sharper, like a warrior's sword that has met an enemy. She asks, whom did he imagine as the opponent? Namun does not hurry to answer, and the girl assumes that it was her. Ilkva calms the young man. So what? It's definitely better than a lifeless sword. From now on, let him train imagining an opponent, unless, of course, he is waving the sword just for show. Ilwa turns around and leaves. Namun bows again, saying that her instructions helped him a lot. He thanks her. Without looking back, the girl replies, she is glad to have been helpful. The young man asks, will she stay in Namun? For how long? Ilwa answers, as long as she can. She still looks back and watches Namun. The young man says, if it does not sound rude, could he ask her to guide him during her stay here? Namun makes a request to Ilwa. If it does not sound rude, perhaps she could guide him during her stay here. The young man says that just watching the training will be enough. He assures that it will not take much of her time. Ilwa agrees. Yes, all right. Namun, who feared her refusal, cannot believe his luck. Slightly stammering, he asks, really? The girl replies, of course. Watching him is not difficult for her. Ilwa asks, can she choose the place for training? The interlocutor hastily agrees. Of course. He inquires, does she have something in mind? The girl says that they will meet tomorrow at the hour of the rabbit, approximately 5 to 7 in the morning. A surprised expression appears on Namun face when Ilwa tells him to come to the heavenly guest house. He repeats in surprise, heavenly guest house. Then he shouts indignantly, what? He of course knew she was not an ordinary person, but looking at the smiling girl, the young man wonders. The mysterious guest who recently stirred the whole family, the most honored of all guests. Is it really her? Ilwa says that she is looking forward to their joint work. A girl in a beautiful long dress stands, modestly lowering her eyes. Sitting at the table set for a meal, Namun beckons her with his hand, telling her to make herself comfortable. When the girl sits opposite him at a small round table, the clan leader says he sent the servants away, so she shouldn't feel awkward. Ilwa thanks him for his attention. With a gesture making the bowl rise into the air, the man says she must be hungry, so she should eat quickly. Ilwa is surprised. She has never seen an object being manipulated at a distance like that. Namun asks, how is her wound, does it hurt? The girl answers negatively, no, her sensations are dulled. The clan leader is surprised. He asks, what does that mean? Sending another portion of food into her mouth, the girl explains, when she was 5, she almost died. Ilwa reaches for another portion, continuing to speak. Then someone forcibly introduced internal energy into her body to save her. She believes that is when she lost her memories and feelings. Filling her mouth with food, Ilwa thinks, how delicious. Could the radiant faces of noble children be connected to the fact that they only eat quality food? An aura thickens around Namun as he asks the girl a question. Was the one who saved her the master of Huaru? Looking at Ilwa, he awaits an answer to the question posed to her. The girl, raising her eyes to him and stopping chewing, answers, yes, that's right. The clan leader asks, then why did she betray him? She answers, because she thinks that it is he who doomed her to death. Ilwa tells her grandfather that Namun cannot be defeated. If they confront him now, their clan will be destroyed. Namun asks, does she really think so? The girl confidently replies, yes. The clan leader promises that he will take measures, but in response hears that the result will be the same. The man asks, what if 3 of the 10 strongest masters in the world join? Ilwa says that maybe they will manage to kill half of the Huaru leaders, but they are unlikely to survive. The clan leader clarifies, what if there are 5 of them? The girl answers, they will be able to destroy Huaru, but will not be able to kill the master. Namun says that sounds like complete nonsense. His face darkens as he asks his granddaughter to tell him who they are. Ilwa lowers her eyes, her face becomes sad, and her appetite clearly disappears. Dipping her finger into a cup with a drink, she draws hieroglyphs on the table that form the word prohibition. Then she puts her fingers to her lips, showing the clan leader that she cannot talk about it. Namgun Mujong abruptly stands up from the chair. Small beads of sweat appear on his face from tension. He thinks, isn't this the very curse because of which, if you try to reveal any information aloud, the vessels immediately burst and the person dies, bleeding out? He thought it was an ordinary cult, but it turned out that all this time they secretly held a knife to Namgun's throat? The girl says that soon there will be a blood surge. Leaning his hands on the table, the man slightly leans towards Ilkva, asking, why has not a single person learned about such a dangerous power until now? The girl explains, because there are people who hide its existence and close others' eyes. Namgun Mujong says, it sounds like espionage. Bowing her head, the girl asks, does he believe her? The clan leader replies that he will ask her only one thing. Why did she return to Namgun? Ilkva says he wants to prevent the destruction of Namgun. The man asks, why? Raising her head and looking him in the eyes, the girl answers, because she is his child. Closing his eyes, the clan leader sinks into contemplation. Namgun Mujong says it is hard to believe everything she told. He needs to observe her actions and how she plans to save Namgun. He claims that he is the head of the family. If she even thinks about going against Namgun, he will stop her. The clan leader says, however, and falls silent for several seconds. After pausing, he finishes the phrase, if there are no doubts that her actions are aimed at the good of the clan. Ilwa listens to him attentively, not taking his eyes off him. The man says that, in that case, he will become the biggest sky for her, on which she can lean. Namgun Mujong solemnly declares, he promises that it will be so. Kunming, Yunnan Province, Huaru. Lanterns illuminate the people having fun on the street. The bloody demon sitting on the balcony railing says, God of wind and lightning. Raising a cup to his lips, he asks the person standing before him, did Ilhwa follow him of her own free will? The other replies, yes. Those who massacred the followers of Soru were also subordinates of the god of wind and lightning. Soru, although aware of this, did not intervene. The bloody demon, with a black mask over his eyes, asks a question likely addressed to himself. And how did this child find out? After all her memories should have been erased. The interlocutor asks, maybe quietly deal with this. The bloody demon inquires, with whom? With the child. The young man answers that she betrayed the master and also took his belongings. The bloody demon replies, does he really think this child can just escape like that? Let him not worry. The girl will return soon on her own. The interlocutor is surprised. Does the master really want to bring back the one who killed her brothers? Mocking lights ignite in the red eyes of the bloody demon. Looking at the people having fun at the tables, he answers, if he can get this child in exchange for the lives of these worthless worms, then it is worth it. Jumping down from the railing, he asks, does Pa Wol have any problems with this? The young man bowing assures, not at all. How could he doubt the words of his lord? Passing by him, the bloody demon says, good. Until the time comes, let her frolic to her heart's content. Suddenly he realizes, no, he needs to check if she is all right. Leaving and spreading around himself a sinister blood-red aura, he says that a gift must be made to her, and he orders Pa Volyu to deliver it to the girl. Ilwa sits on a chair. In front of her on her lap stands the head of the medical hall, and holding her hand in his, he influences her with inner energy, which is noticeable to those around as a bright glow. The woman finishes the examination and rises from her knees. They are in the same gazebo and at the same table where dinner took place. Only now the table is empty, and there is a lantern on it. Nearby stands Sop Mogwan. Cho Ren speaks, addressing the clan head. As he said, traces of the prohibition spell remain on the girl. Namgun Mujong asks, can she remove it? The woman answers that medicines cannot get rid of it. Only the one who cast the spell can remove it himself. Ilwa says that over time the spell will destroy itself. The girl explains, when he reveals his identity, the prohibition will fall, because his name will spread throughout the world. The clan head says that this concerns her life. One cannot treat this lightly. Ilwa promises to be careful. Resting his head on his hand, Namgun Mujong asks, no more problems? The girl reminds that her feelings have dulled. He knows how dangerous it is for a martial arts master not to feel pain, right? The clan head thinks that the girl has lost the ability to understand how badly she is wounded and how long she can endure. If you do not notice the warning sent by feelings, how then survive in the martial world where life and death are decided in the blink of an eye? Rising from the chair, Namgun Mujong asks, what else? Sop Mugwan reminds that the child's origin has not yet been established. He heard that all her chi was previously drained. He believes that the cause of this may be. The clan leader approaches Ilwa, and standing behind her, places his hand on her shoulder. He asks her to sit still and explains that he wants to check her body with his chi. Namgun Mujong influences her with his own energy. The girl experiences strange feelings that make her eyes open wide in surprise. She sees a red energy orb at chest level and, as if in a vision, sees a dragon coiling around her body. The ghostly dragon circles above their heads. The clan leader continues to keep his palm on Ilhwa's shoulder. Gently squeezing her shoulder, the man says that she has been through a lot before returning. The girl looks back and meets his eyes. Namgun Mujong asks, "Weren't those unbearably cruel 8 years?" Then quietly says, "Welcome back." He expresses regret that she cannot meet her father in better condition. The girl asks in surprise, "What? What is he talking about?" The man says, "The first young master." The girl's gaze becomes wary. She is afraid to hear bad news. She clearly feels relief when she hears that they have not yet reported her arrival to him. Looking into the distance, Namgun Mujong says, "A bit untimely, but he has already flown here." Ilhwa looks in the same direction as her grandfather. The chief manager reports the arrival of the first young master. Looking into the eyes of the man whose cheek a tear rolls down, the girl thinks that this man is her father. The sword Namgun, whom she killed last. Namgun Jong-un. For some time they stand facing each other, unable to move. Then Ilhwa lowers her head. Namgun Mujong asks his son, "Why is he crying rivers? Let him calm down first." Kneeling before his daughter, Namgun Jong-un says that he needs to examine her body a little. He asks, "Will she allow it?" Ilhwa inquires, "Can she find out why he needs this?" The man says that powerful clans always have many enemies. There have been many cases when people kidnapped a child from a family to take them hostage. He explains to Ilhwa that therefore, when his daughter was born, he personally left a mark on her body. To others, these look like ordinary dots, but if connected, they form the shape of a dragon. He says that these dots are located behind the left ear, on the right collarbone, under the fingernail of the left hand's index finger, on the right knee, and on the back of the left heel. The man examines the girl's left leg. Namgun Mujong and Sop Mogwan watch his actions. The head of the medical hall and the chief manager look tensely at Ilhwa and Namgun Jong-un. The man extends his hand forward. Then he grabs the girl and presses her to his chest. He hugs Ilhwa, whispering, "My little daughter Ilhwa." Slightly pulling the girl away and looking into her eyes, the man says that he is her father. He repeats these words to her again and again. And Ilhwa, who had shown no emotions before, presses her forehead against his shoulder. The man quietly says, "She has grown up like that." Ilhwa is sitting on the bed. In front of her on a pedestal stands a basin of water in which her father is washing her feet. Wiping her feet with a towel, he says he has seen this before, but her legs are excessively covered with wounds. There is not a single uninjured spot. The girl, looking at him, notices that his eyes are red. Namgun Jong-un says that he is not ashamed at all. Rather, he is even glad. Ilhwa looks at the man puzzled, thinking. First he cries, then he laughs. She cannot understand him. The father quietly calls her by name. The man asks, does she know why she was named exactly that? He explains that snow is the most beautiful flower given by the heavens. She came to them on the day when a pure white flower covered the whole world. This name was given to her by her mother. She was the one who loved her more than anyone else in the world. Namgun Jong-un says that she probably does not remember her mother. He assures that she truly loved her, just like 8 years ago, and now, in heaven. He asks her not to forget about it. Father says he is very glad that she returned. Ilhwa replies that she is also glad about his return. The man suggests to her to go together tomorrow to see the city. He says he wants to show her the streets of Hefei, where she ran with him when she was little. The girl thinks that she had other plans for tomorrow. She wanted to study the Namgun cultivation method. Namgun Jong-un says that there was a little shop with tangulu, which she loved very much in childhood. He asks if she wants to go with him. Ilhwa thinks that since she is the daughter of Namgun Jong-un, she must fulfill her role. The girl answers her father. Okay. Pavilion of the second young gentleman Namgun Jong-hae. A candle is burning in the room. A voice sounds. He wants to say. Writing hieroglyphs on parchment, Namgun Jong-hae clarifies. So, the honorable guest of the heavenly guest house turned out to be a little girl. Opposite him sits Namgun Horak, the head of the Yellow Dragon Combat Squad. The combat squad consists of martial arts masters. The Namgun clan has 6 such squads. Yellow Dragon, Blue Dragon, Red Dragon, White and Black Dragons. The man answers, yes. This is reliable information that has been confirmed repeatedly. Namgun Jong-hae, sitting on the floor by the low table, without looking away from his task, speaks to the man sitting on the carpet. He does not know if she is a child of the main family or an heiress of the great sect, but it causes bewilderment. They would not have provided the heavenly guest house to such a guest. Dipping the brush in ink, he adds, or maybe she has the same level as her father. He considers it unlikely. He heard that Chi, the guest's level, hasn't even reached the first level master. Namgun Jong-hae continues to think aloud. She might be a master capable of hiding her chi so that an ordinary servant would notice nothing. He asks Namgun Horak, doesn't he think so? The head of the combat squad agrees with him. Yes, they cannot be sure. Namgun Horak says he heard another interesting story. They say the first young master is now with this guest in the heavenly guest house. Namgun Jeonghae raises his eyes to the interlocutor and asks, "Does he mean that the elder brother has returned?" Dropping the brush, he leans over the parchment and freezes. The second young gentleman contemplates the received information. The brother left on a mission to a place from which the return will take at least 3 days. But now he is with a guest in the heavenly guest house? This guest must be an important person on the Central Plains. He suggests that the brother wanted to return and strengthen his influence again. Namgun Jeonghae believes that the father wants him to become the next head. Currently, the Council of Elders supports him, the second young lord. But if the brother returns, Namgun Horak asks him not to worry like that. He says this is not like the meeting he thought of. Namgun Jeonghae asks, what does he want to say by this? The interlocutor explains that, according to the maid, the first young master adores the guest. They say he was walking in the garden of the heavenly guest house, holding her in his arms. The second young master ponders. The one who made his brother return, a little girl. He says to Namgun Horak, does he really want to say that they found Solhwa? The head of the combat squad says, second young master. Then he says that the first young master has returned to the family. They cannot wait forever and hope that a suitable position will come to him by itself. Namgun Horak believes that Jeonghai should hurry before the first young master strengthens his position. 3 of their combat squads will support him. Namgun Jipen sprawled on the ground, spreading his arms to the sides. He groans that he can no longer continue and assures that he will die now. Ilwa, leaning over him, says, is 50 kun, 1 kun equals 30 kre, already too much for him? The young man, still lying down, shouts indignantly, 50 kun? That is not just 50. In total, on each arm and leg, that is a full 200 kun. 200. The girl listens as he continues to shout. What is the point of such swordsmanship practice if he cannot use chi? Ilhua says. It seems there is no such training in Namgun. Trying to get up, Namgun Jipen protests. Who would even engage in such a thing? The girl says. So that's why he is so weak. The young man objects. He is not weak. Ilhua replies that he drops the sword from the slightest blow, falls easily, and judging by what she saw today, he only knows how to talk. Namgun Jipen, though angry, cannot argue. He falls to the ground again. The girl asks, how much longer will he lie there? She suggests he try the exercise once more. Namgun Jipen stops her. Rising, he replies, she doesn't need to say it like that for him to understand. He will do everything. Raising his face to her, from which drops of sweat are flowing, he assures that he can do more. Swinging the sword, the young man mentally reproaches himself. Why did he say that? His legs tremble, and his knees buckle as he takes a fighting stance. At the same time, he thinks, who says to stop in the middle of a sword lunge? Clenching the hilt of the blade with trembling hands, he wonders, how much time has passed? How much longer should he continue training? The young man grits his teeth. He can't go on any longer. He feels that he will fall from exhaustion now. Suddenly, Namgun Jipen freezes. Drops of sweat continue to flow down his cheeks. He looks at the girl, realizing that his body suddenly... Ilwa, pressing her index finger against his blade, asks, he feels lighter, doesn't he? The girl holds his sword with one finger radiating internal energy. The young man replies. It seems to him as if all the weight has disappeared. He asks, how did she do that? Ilwa explains that she distributed the weight of the weights across her entire body. She says that he is quite a strong warrior, but he tends to use all his strength at once. The girl continues to say, even a threatening attack will lose its advantage if the fight drags on. Bursting in with full force is not the only way. She adds that the stronger the opponent, the more cautious he must be. He needs to wait for an opportunity to counterattack. The young man listens as she explains to him that until this chance appears, his body must minimize losses. His body must be balanced. She advises him to train to distribute strength throughout the body, as he is doing now. Namgun Jipen is only able to utter an indefinite, ah. Ilwa declares that that is all for today, and the young man, as if struck down, falls face first to the ground, dropping the blade from his hands. For some time Namgun Jipen lies groaning, then he gets up and exhales. The young man bows respectfully and, calling Ilwa a young master, thanks her. He says that it seems that with her help he has finally seen the state he must achieve. The girl asks, was it not too difficult? Namgun Jipen answers, it was difficult, but he understood that this training is necessary, so he is fine. Now he understands that the weights had quite a deep meaning. Smiling, Ilwa says, since he understood, let him try to gradually get used to them. He should be able to easily handle 500 kun with one hand. The exhausted young man looks at her with miserable eyes. Then he asks, having first asked not to take his words as rudeness, how much can the girl herself endure? She replies that she is currently using 300 kun. She still has a long way ahead. Namgun Jipen thinks, 300 kun per limb total, 1,200 kun. Is that even possible? Ilkva says, from tomorrow, if there are other warriors who want to train, let him take them with him. If they train together, they will be more motivated and encourage each other. Isn't that great? The young man asks, so, she doesn't mind? The girl answers, of course not. Meanwhile, Ilkwa mentally adds, after all, it's all to strengthen the roots of Namgun. The girl looks up thoughtfully, pondering how bad things are for the other students. Namgun Jipen, watching her, is amazed. She can control the power just by touching the sword. Probably, she is a master who has achieved unity of sword and body. He believes that since such a valuable person spares no effort in training the warriors of the outer hall, like them, this is a golden opportunity to become stronger. The young man exclaims that he will definitely bring everyone. Ilkva, leaving, casually waves his hand, saying, since they will come anyway, let him bring as many people as possible. Namgun Jipen raises his hands triumphantly, shouting, yes, many! On the street, numerous passers-by hurry about their business. Smartly dressed Namgun Jong-un and Ilwa go for a walk. The father says, since there are many people here, let her hold his hand tighter. The girl briefly replies, yes. The man thinks it would be good to eat first. He asks if she wants anything. The girl thoughtfully says what she wants to eat. She lifts her face to her father and says that she knows a good spot. Ilhwa suggests going there. Namgun Jeon-un is surprised by her words. On the table stands a plate of noodles, above which a light cloud of steam rises. Father and daughter sit at a table set with various dishes, enjoying delicious food. Namgun Jong-un says, dumplings and thin noodles. He likes them very much too. Thanks to her, he can enjoy them again after so much time. The girl extends a dish to him on which dumplings lie, offering for him to take it. The man thanks her and accepts the treat, saying he will gladly eat everything. Ilhwa returns to her dish again. With his mouth full of food, Ilhwa thinks. She now understands why the god of wind and lightning likes this place. What taste could be better than the food in Namgun? Looking at the huge plate filled with dumplings, she mentally asks herself, why didn't she know about this place in her past life? Did they suddenly get rich and close down? No. It seems this place wasn't here before. Namgun Jong-un reaches out and strokes his daughter's head, saying, he is glad to see she has a good appetite. Let her eat more and grow faster. His attention is drawn by someone's shout. When did they say they wouldn't pay? Some thug looming over the skinny elderly inn owner, at whose feet broken dishes lie, continues shouting. He said he would pay next time. The wallet was left at home. The owner protests in a trembling voice that he has said this many times already. People sitting at a neighboring table laugh cheerfully, watching the conflict. The owner says he really has to pay, or they won't be able to do business anymore. The thug steps forward, grabbing the skinny old man by the chest. He easily lifts him, shouting, how dare he say that? Does he even know who they are? Namgun Jong-un hears the owner's words. How can he not know the warriors of Namgun? The inn owner continues speaking. Peace in Hefei exists thanks to the warriors of Namgun. He knows this. The thug throws him aside and the old man falls, hitting his back on the counter. Squatting down next to him, the thug says, it's good that he knows this. But at the same time, he shows disrespect to them because of some dumplings and noodles when they risk their lives to keep Hefei safe. The innkeeper, trembling, quietly says, but they have done this before. A shout from the thug echoes through the hall. He already said he forgot his wallet. Trembling all over, the innkeeper bows his head low and replies that he understands everything. He asks him to be sure to bring the wallet next time. The thug's lips stretch into a smile. His laughter fills the entire hall. After laughing, he says, wouldn't it have been better to behave like this from the very beginning? Heading to the exit, he promises to definitely pay next time. His friends follow him. One of them, stretching, says the food is just amazing. A man rushes to the innkeeper sitting on the floor, exclaiming, Father, he asks, is he all right? The man says this won't do. They must report this to the authorities. The father objects, no, these people are Namgun warriors. Does the son really think the authorities will help them? Namgun Jong-un smiles and turns to his daughter, watching her eat. Continuing to smile, he tells Ilwi that he will be away for a short while. He promises to return soon and asks her not to go anywhere. Still chewing, the girl looks at him, thinking. She will pretend not to know that he has already placed guards in that corner to prevent her from leaving. Seeing Namgun Jong-un leave the tavern, she wonders, does he want to punish those guys? Of course, he will never let them go just like that. They shamelessly use the Namgun name right before their eyes. She is curious how he will punish them. The now cheerful innkeeper serves the visitors. Watching him, Namgun Jong-un says that he learned their names and affiliations, then ordered them to return to the clan and think about their actions. The man, bringing the cup to his lips, adds, and he also ordered to deduct their salary for 3 months and give it to the owner. Ilhwa says, and? The father answers that that's all. The girl looks at him with bewilderment. She asks, won't he cut off their hands and tongues? Now it's the father's turn to be puzzled. Why? Ilhwa explains. They used martial arts with evil intent, so their hands need to be cut off. And they also tarnished the clan's name, so their tongues need to be cut off too. Namgun Jong-eun listens silently to his daughter. The girl thinks, if this were a blood cult, it wouldn't have ended like this. But Namgun is a righteous sect. The man explains that they do not cut off hands or tongues. Ilhwa asks, why? The father says, if you cut off their hands, they will never be able to hold a sword again. And if you cut off their tongues, they won't be able to eat or speak properly for the rest of their days. Ilhwa replies, that's why it's called punishment. Namgun Jong-eun says they should be given a chance to reflect on their mistakes. The girl says, well, probably, and then returns to her food. The man looks at Ilhwa sadly. The girl devours dumplings with appetite. They walk down the street again. In one hand, Ilhwa holds a tungalu, and in the other, a bag with the same sweets. The father looks at her tenderly. His attention is drawn to a merchant telling someone that he has a diamond eye. Only today they received a wonderful new item. Namgun Jong-eun asks his daughter if she wants to look at the bracelets. The girl reminds him that he already bought her a hair ornament. The man is surprised. Is that really enough? Ilhwa says that he also bought flower shoes and a ring. The father replies that they suited her perfectly. The girl feels no joy from the gifts at all. Mentally she sighs. What a hassle. She calls out to her father and he immediately turns to her, ready to fulfill any of her whims. Ilhwa says she needs to go to the restroom and asks if there is a place nearby. The girl scratches the back of her head in puzzlement. She did not think that her father would rent her an entire guest room. An alley would have been enough for her. Opening the window, she rejoices that thanks to this it will be easier for her to act. Leaving the room through the window, Ilhwa wonders, how much time does she have? As soon as the guards notice she is gone, they will immediately raise an alarm. She remembers the thug and his friends. The girl is sure she recognized them. She thinks it is better to deal with them before they cause trouble. Ilhwa runs at full speed, thinking about how to avoid meeting the guards on the first floor and on the roof. The girl thinks that if she goes through the back of the building, she will be able to avoid their gazes. Ilhwa rushes forward swiftly, hurrying to deal with the thug and his friends. Mentally addressing her father, she promises to return quickly. The man curses. Why of all people did they run into the head of the black dragon? The thug cautiously sneaks along the wall with his friends, wondering, where did the guys who never cared about street security come from? One of the men, cautiously peeking from behind the corner of the house, says, honestly, wasn't that too much? He extorted food from them every day. Naturally, he got caught. The thug is angry. He already said that this place has the best dumplings. He liked it too, so why is he acting like this? He lowers his big hand onto his friend's head, who asks him to be quieter, or else they will get caught. The thug mocks him. They will get caught, yeah right. Pushing his friend aside, the thug himself peeks out from behind the corner of the building. He says no one will hear them because it's noisier there than here, then asks, does he really think the hotel has already been refunded? The man replies that Namgun is all about formality, isn't it? Of course, they will fully compensate the hotel for all losses incurred. Making a short dash between buildings, the thug says, but can they go back there again and cause trouble? The friend ahead of him says that in that case, no one will return their salary. Hiding behind the corner of the house again, they cautiously peek out. The thug's lively friend says Namgun only cares about preserving reputation and that's it. Why should they bother and worry about some hotel? They just need to intimidate the owner so he doesn't dare report to Namgun. Smiling in anticipation, the thug agrees. Yes, the friend is right. He asks, so, have the guys from Namgun already left? The other replies to wait. It's hard to see from here, so let him. He is interrupted by an unexpected question. What are they doing here? The man is frightened. His face breaks out in sweat as he cautiously glances behind his back. He tries to turn back but realizes he can't move. Ilhwa, holding her fingers on his back, says he shouldn't even try. She has blocked his acupuncture points, so he won't be able to move for at least an hour. She adds that his voice is blocked too, so he shouldn't even try to scream. The man realizes the others are in the same situation as him. He is surprised. When did this happen? The girl pronounces their names one by one. Continuing to stand behind their backs, she says, and Mo, Il Ren, Sambon. Ilhwa asks, why are they loafing in Namgun? She knows very well such people who are ready for anything if money is involved. Ilhwa thinks that they probably made up a lie about the beginning of a new life to become warriors of Namgun, all to openly exploit others. The girl remembers that in her past life these guys later joined the blood cult, and before that, they robbed Namgun. Mentally, she tells her father that such people do not change, no matter how many chances he gives them. In the end, they will betray Namgun and join the blood cult. They are just rats. Ilwa says that even giving them a chance to repent was a waste. She admits that she would have preferred to kill them. Drops of sweat stream down the faces of her prisoners. The girl decides to spare them since they are still members of Namgun. Sambon, squinting, thinks, whoever she is, she still fears touching the people of Namgun. Suddenly a piece of cloth ends up in his mouth, and with the edge of her palm the girl strikes him on the throat. Sambon stands staggering, trying to understand what happened. He thinks, what did he just swallow? Meanwhile, his friends make inarticulate sounds, indicating that they suffered the same fate. Ilwa says, she said she would spare them, but did not say she would simply let them go. She adds that from now on she can kill them with a single finger movement. Sambon thinks with horror, no, just don't let them tell him this. It's a year-old. A year-old is definitely that very insect, where if one of the pair is wounded, the other immediately feels the pain. They are united. Sambon remembers that he heard about this. They say if you kill the female, the male, hidden in the head or heart, will explode. Mentally, he curses. Ilren, standing next to him, asks, is this not a lie? Sambon thinks hopefully, maybe it's not a year-old. Ilwa asks, they don't believe her? Want to be sure? She suggests as proof to kill one of them. The men categorically refuse her proposal. Ilwa says that's all for today. She has little time. She promises them that they will see each other again soon. The girl turns around and leaves. Without looking back, she throws over her shoulder. If they cause trouble again, she asks the frightened men. Well, they understand everything, don't they? The men continue to stand, trembling with fear in the middle of the street, waiting for the girl to remove the blockage of acupuncture points, but Ilwa doesn't even think about doing that. Under the door of the room that the father rented for Ilwa, a conversation is going on. Too quietly, something is wrong. The guard tells Namgun Jong-un that he will open the door in case it's dangerous there. He doesn't finish speaking. At that moment the door opens, and Ilwa appears on the threshold of the room. Making an innocent face, the girl exclaims, "Oh, it's them." She asks, "Where is her snack?" The guard is puzzled, but a second ago not even breathing was heard. Namgun Jong-un reproachfully says, "Nothing happened. He made people worry for nothing." The father asks Ilwa, "Has she settled everything?" She answers, "Yes," and asks to forgive her for making them wait. Namgun Jong-un says that everything is fine. He notices that her clothes are twisted and offers to help her fix them. A man sitting on the floor in the dim light of the room says, their words are true. He says that the girl, young lady Huaoru, stole the great pill of rebirth. But Nobek, head of MANHUA and Muhak Pavilion, adds that afterwards she went straight to Namgun. This is what they said. He continues, they say that those who lost the miraculous Huan pill were the Black Cloud sect, which is active on the border between Shanxi and Henan. Doesn't this coincide with the information they had about the group that attacked them? A man sitting on a raised platform, whose face is lost in the darkness of the room and the incense smoke, listens carefully as Nobek speaks, calling him the head of the sect. If that girl has not yet taken the pill, they still have a chance. They need to get her back immediately. The head of the sect replies to Nobek, doesn't he find this strange? A man hiding behind transparent curtains continues speaking. There are too many details for rumors, and they reached Nobek's ears at a surprisingly convenient time. The head of MANHWA and Muhak Pavilion asks, does he mean that they should not believe the rumors? But still, the head of the sect tells Nobek. He knows they have no other choice. Fine. They must send that child to Namgun. The one they are talking about freezes in the middle of the training students. His face is not visible because he is standing with his back turned. As if sensing something, he freezes without moving. A drop of sweat runs down his cheek. Ilwa is immersed in a dream that demands obedience and blood from her. Standing by the door, the girl breaks a vase with her hand. The shards fall to the floor at her feet. Ilwa comes to her senses and carefully examines her hand. Blood flows from the cuts on her palm. The girl curses. Ilwa sits on the floor. The head of the medical hall Cho-Ren examines her hand. The woman says this won't do. She hasn't told anyone about the hypnosis, as the girl asked. But if she keeps getting wounds, she will have to tell everything. The girl replies that then she will tell too. Cho-Ren raises her head and asks, what is she going to tell? Ilwa answers, she will say that the head of the medical hall is the poisonous blood king. Cho-Ren is horrified. Looking around, she says, what if someone hears Ilwa? The girl replies, that's why she said it telepathically. The woman is surprised. Really? It sounded so natural that she didn't notice anything. Crossing her arms on her chest, Cho-Ren says, honestly, she has no idea what's going on in her little head. Maybe she's not a cute kitten, but a little tiger? The girl, looking at her bandaged wrist, answers, they can wait and see. The woman turns away from her, saying she is a terrible grump. Should she still tell the news that the little tiger will like? Ilhwa becomes alert. What news? Choren reports that the clan head is going to perform a star purification ritual for her. The girl is surprised. A star purification ritual? Ilhwa brightens up. Could it be that Choren is talking about that very great technique of infusing internal energy into the body? The woman answers, correct. Then asks, is Ilhwa surprised? The head will cleanse her body of the remnants of blood energy and open her meridians. Choren adds, apparently Namgun Mujang noticed something wrong with her vessels and seriously thought about it. He even asked her if the ritual would harm his granddaughter. She is truly cherished. Ilhwa is touched. The star cleansing ritual is a technique in which the master uses internal energy to change another person's physique. If a mistake is made, even the user can experience chi deviation. No matter how skilled the master is, very few dare to attempt it. The girl thinks, for a master with outstanding chi control skill to propose performing this ritual himself. Isn't that called a true blessing of fate? And if it's conducted by a blood relative, the effect is even better. Moreover, Ilhwa is still young and can become a martial arts master faster than anyone else. Although her internal energy is currently only at an average level, she can make a leap to the level of top-class masters, perhaps even surpass herself from a past life. A question from Choren reaches her. Is the girl really that happy? The woman laughs. Where has the indifferent face gone? The one that didn't flinch even when her hand was injured. It turns out she knows how to honestly show emotions. Ilhwa shyly turns away, blaming herself for losing control so easily. The head of the medical hall looks at the girl with affection, then says, for a little tiger cub, she is very cute, isn't she? Dressed in a beautiful dress, Ilhwa freezes in thought. Who is the cute one here? Continuing to climb the stairs, the girl thinks, whether it's the servants or Choren. She remembers how the maids were charmed, saying she looks even cuter in the dress. Ilhwa sighs. She doesn't understand why they say that. The girl wonders, are all the people in Namgun this strange? Approaching the door, Ilhwa thinks, and he invites her to dine together every time. Namgun Muchon's third son, Namgun Jongsan, sitting at the dinner table, emotionally recounts how he handled those guys like a turtle god. The young man asks his father, didn't he do well? Namgun Jonghae says he needs to control his temper. He replies that he wasn't asking him. The clan head listens as Muchon complains that his brother always tries to butt into the conversation. The girl standing behind the door listens to the conversation. She thinks she hears the voices of people who have already died once. Now she must become one family with them. This thought causes her a light chuckle. Sop Mugwan asks Ilkva if she will enter the room. The man says, she has come such a long way. So why is she standing here? The girl says, it sounds pleasant. Sop Mugwan clarifies, what exactly? Ilhwa answers, their laughter. She says that she has never eaten with people she can call family, so she feels a little strange. Ilkva thinks about how she considered the bloody demon her father, and the members of the blood cult her brothers. But they were people who waited for a chance to kill each other. Hardly a family. Even when she heard that someone had died, she felt no emptiness or sadness. The girl asks the interlocutor, if a family member dies, will she be sad? Sop Mugwan looks at the girl with anxiety. The man calls Ilkva, baby girl. She lifts her face to him. Sop Mugwan gives her a powerful flick on the ear, causing her to recoil from him. Ilkva covers her head with her hands, and the man shouts angrily, what kind of old man questions is such a little girl asking? She should not waste time on useless reflections. Rubbing her bruised forehead, the girl replies that it is a normal question. Crossing his arms on his chest and turning away from her, Sop Mugwan says, if he were in her place, he would spend that time training. He tells Ilhwa that she would become stronger from this and would protect her family. Frowning sternly, the man adds, but before protecting others, she must learn to protect herself. How does she manage to get wounds without them knowing about it? Embarrassed, Ilhwa tries to hide her bandaged wrist in the wide sleeve of her dress. Meanwhile, Sop Mugwan continues to scold her. Doesn't she know how important hands are for swordmasters? At this rate, even if she wants to help, no one will agree to it. Almost spewing fire, Sop Mugwan shouts after the fleeing Ilhwa. He can't give her a whole lecture here, but let her keep in mind that from now on, he will be watching her. Running, the girl replies. Okay. Ilhwa stands before the door. The servants guarding the entrance bow their heads to her. The girl thinks that Sop Mugwan is right. Now is not the time to drown herself in guilt. No matter how much you dwell on the past, the future will not change by itself. What she must face now. When the door opens, the heads of all present turn toward her. Namgun Jong-un looks at her with a gentle smile. The clan head is sincerely glad to see her. At the table, there are two more men whom she has not yet had the chance to meet. Ilhwa thinks, so this is Namgun, where she is. The second son of Namgun Mujun, Namgun Jonghae, turns his head toward her. Smiling sweetly, Ilhwa thinks, chaos in Namgun. She will change this. The girl greets and introduces herself, stating her name. Namgun Jonghae says, welcome back. He adds that her face is the same as it was in childhood. The man says she has been through a lot. He turns to the young man sitting next to him, and calling him So-ren, tells him to greet his older sister, who was born 6 months before him. So-ren, staring at Ilhwa, thinks that until now he had lived well as the eldest grandson. But she suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and expects him to treat her like an older sister? The young man says coldly that he is glad to meet her. The woman at the table puts her hand on the shoulder of the child sitting next to her, asking him to greet the girl as well. The little boy, sincerely smiling at Ilhwa, says he has heard a lot about his sister. He introduces himself. His name is Yen-un. He is very glad that his sister has returned. Smiling, Ilhwa thanks the brothers. Namgun Jong-san, next to whom the girl was seated, says he was so surprised to learn that she was a guest at the heavenly guest house. He asks if the girl remembers how uncle carried her on his back when she was little. He laughs. The woman sitting next to him says it is a real happiness to see her healthy. She was incredibly surprised when she heard that she returned on her own. The woman says that the girl has become such a lovely young lady. Pointing to the little girl sitting nearby, she introduces her, saying her name is Haran. She adds that the girl is probably seeing her for the first time. Haran clings to her mother. The woman asks her if she does not want to greet her sister. She urges her to be braver. The woman apologizes to Ilhwa, saying that Haran is shy around strangers. The girl assures her that it is all right. She thinks they will live under the same roof anyway, so there is no point in getting close right now. But he offers the girl a treat, vegetables skewered on a stick. Her mother, laughing, asks, "Is this for the little sister?" She tells the girl that her daughter wants to treat Ilhwa. The embarrassed little girl, peeking out from behind her mother's sleeve, looks at Ilhwa with eyes shining with joy. The clan leader says, "How nice it is to see this." Tomorrow he wants to tell about Ilhwa's return at the elders' meeting. From now on, they all must protect her. Everyone answers together. "Yes, father," Namgun Jongsan exclaims. "Of course. He says that uncle will often carry her on his back." He adds, even if the girl pulls out all his hair, he will not complain. His wife elbows him in the side, making him fall silent. The clan leader says, since everyone is gathered, placing the cup on the table, he continues. He should tell about the decision he made this morning. Namgun Mujong announces that he has decided to perform the star purification ritual for Ilhwa. Namgun Jong-un cannot hide his surprise. From his lips slips, "What?" Hugging his daughter by the shoulders, he clarifies. The very star purification ritual he is thinking of? The clan leader replies, "Is there any other ritual?" Namgun Jong-un says, he just checked if he heard everything correctly. Namgun Jonghae warns, it is too dangerous. He reminds his father that he is the support of the Namgun family. He fears that if something goes wrong, his body might suffer. The clan head replies, "What do you mean something will go wrong? Does the son doubt him?" Jonghae says, he is only speaking of a possibility. What if luck suddenly turns away from him? The father answers him, if the son is afraid of failures, then what can he do? With a darkened face, Jonghae thinks. So the father raised this issue not to hear their opinion. The decision has already been made. If everything goes as planned, not only he will suffer, but So-ren's dream of becoming the next clan head will become even more distant. Jon-san says, "Stop, stop, stop. Isn't this too much for a welcome gift? Will the girl agree to this?" The clan head replies that she is his granddaughter, who returned alive after a long 8 years. As her grandfather and elder of the Namgun family, what can he not do for her? Jon-san exclaims, "Isn't he speaking too lightly about the star purification ritual? It is not called luck sent by the heavens for nothing." The clan head asks, where has he seen stronger bonds than those of the Namgun family? Jon-san forcefully slams his fists on the table, shouting, "In that case, why didn't he perform this ritual for them? If not for them, then at least let him perform it for their Haran." The darkened clan head, who had lowered his head, slowly raises his gaze to his son. He asks, how dare he let his greed cloud his mind and prove himself wrong? Everyone present freezes, afraid to utter a single word. The clan head rises from his chair, saying, "Enough!" The meal is over. He invites the girl to come with him. Jon-san, jumping up from his chair, exclaims, "Father!" But the head of the clan leaves the hall without turning back. Ilhwa, following him, stops and scans everyone sitting at the table. Her gaze is stern. The girl thinks, a real battlefield. The head of the clan, having already left the hall, turns his head to her when he hears her question. Could problems have arisen because of her? Standing on the terrace overlooking the roofs of other buildings, Namgun Mujong asks, is something bothering her? Ilhwa answers, she feels that everyone finds it hard to accept this. The head of the clan explains, they just think he is heartless. While Jong-un was absent, He never discussed the issue of the next head of the clan, nor tested the children's abilities through cultivation. The man adds that they lack inner strength. One only knows how to weave intrigues, and the other cannot distinguish top from bottom. Which of them can be like the sky? Ilwa is surprised. The sky, she thinks. Why did the conversation suddenly turn to the sky? The head of the clan says that people compare Namgun to the sky. He asks, does she know why? Ilwa does not know what to say. If she recalls the character traits of the people from Namgun she met before, a spirit that would rather be defeated than yield. People who would give their lives for Namgun. Why? The girl wonders. Why have they completely devoted themselves to Namgun? She asks, isn't it because their chi is blue, like the sky? The head of the clan asks her a question. Then what about those whose chi color is not blue? He says that the girl has broken the order. Ilwa is surprised. Order. Namgun Mujong explains that Namgun cultivates the martial art of the sky, which is why their chi is blue. Raising his eyes to the sky, he continues to speak. Sometimes there are those who stand out with a special color. Even in the study of martial arts, everyone has their own determination and spirit. Pointing at the moon, he adds, the one who looks at the sky at dusk is like a golden color, and the one who gazes at the night sky is like a black color. Every heart is filled with meaning and has its own unique color, and all these skies merge into a single whole. He clenches his hand into a fist. One must live clearly and decisively, as if looking from the blue sky down to the earth. He continues speaking, looking at Ilhwa, to follow the order of the sky and conform to it. This is the idea of noble justice that Namgun preaches. Namgun Mujong tells his granddaughter, one must live clearly and decisively. It is like looking from the blue sky down to the earth, to follow the order of the sky and conform to it. This is the idea of noble justice that Namgun preaches. Everyone born in Namgun must keep the spirit of the heavens within. But it seems they still have much to learn. The girl looking at him thinks, it seems the clan head has often deeply reflected on this. She looks at her grandfather. Namgun Mujong is a man who himself resembles the sky. Although he maintains dignity as the clan head, sometimes he can overwhelm people with his crushing power. Ilwa wonders, how is such a thing even possible? Poisons, sorcery, spies, betrayal. There are countless dirty tricks in the world. The Namgun clan once already fell because of the vile intrigues of the blood cult. The girl tells her grandfather that a straight tree will surely break. She believes that a broken tree cannot grow again, and asks, is this really the right path? Namgun Mujong looks at his granddaughter in surprise. He thinks, what a difficult question. Then he says he will be honest. He prefers to break rather than bend. Ilwa clarifies. Even if a bent tree has less chance of breaking, she thinks, isn't survival worth slightly departing from the clan's teachings? The head of the Namgun clan tells her that the spirit is more important than anything else. A broken tree that still has roots can one day grow again. Even if it takes a long time, it will definitely survive. Trees that bend do not have strong and sturdy trunks, and their roots are also weak. Such trees can live long, but they will never stand for 100 years. He asks the girl, does she understand this? As long as there are roots, as long as the spirit is preserved, that is enough. Namgun Mujong tells Ilwe, who is listening attentively, that new shoots will sprout one day, and the tree will grow again. Ilhva thinks, since she died immediately after the fall of the Namgun clan, she does not know whether Namgun Muchon's words were true. Is it really so? Could it be that the young shoots they failed to destroy grew up and destroyed the blood cult? The clan leader looks at his granddaughter lost in thought. The girl believes that one thing is certain. Looking down from the terrace, she thinks. Until death itself, they never revealed the secret techniques of Namgun and held on to the clan's spirit. To be honest, the blood cult never managed to break the spirit of the Namgun clan. Namgun Mujong asks the girl, what is she thinking about? Ilhwa turns her head to him and looks intently into his eyes. The clan leader asks, will she live like one of the Namgun? He says that tomorrow the Council of Elders will announce her return. But if she does not want to, he can hide her existence. Namgun Mujong adds that she is the child the Namgun clan has been searching for the past 8 years. But at the very moment her belonging to the Namgun clan becomes officially recognized, can she imagine how much attention will be focused on her? Wherever she goes, whatever she does, she will be watched. They will evaluate every her action, criticize her, and even slander. He tells Ilkve that he is worried whether she can handle this. The girl ponders. After thinking for a while, Ilkve answers, no. The girl, looking into Namgun Muchon's eyes, says that she is a child of Namgun. She will take upon herself every arrow shot at Namgun, and destroy it. The clan leader reads this in her eyes. The girl does not look away, her gaze full of determination. She tells her grandfather that she has decided to live exactly like this. Large drops of sweat stream down Namgun Jipen's face. The young man thinks he is doomed, At this rate, he will really die. The girl carefully watches the training students. A shout is heard. No more strength. She approaches one of the students and with the hilt of her blade forces him to raise his clenched fist higher. Ilkva, looking at the student with huge naive eyes, says that there is little left. Let him hold on a little longer. She steps away from the guy, and he, gritting his teeth tightly, continues training, thinking, and how long will this little longer last? One of the students mentally curses, thinking that he should not have listened to the captain. And he was so happy when he found out that he could receive instruction from a master of the highest level. The young man thinks about this while doing push-ups. Listening to the count, 995, 996, he mentally protests. Is this training? Pure torture. What the hell kind of master of the highest level? Just a petty girl. The count continues. 997, 998, 999. Sweat streams down the young man's face. It sounds 1,000. All the students fall to the ground. Ilwa watches as they regain consciousness and try to catch their breath. She stops near Namgun-jipen, but he doesn't even lift his head. Ilwa asks, finished? Lifting his head from the ground, he answers, yes, 1,000 times. He says he might have overdone it, as now he can't stop coughing. The girl says, as she thought, 1,000 is too easy for him. The expression on the guy's face clearly reads, no, not at all. She adds that next time she will add weight to his back. Otherwise, his muscles and bones won't be properly trained. The other students look at them in horror. How can one say such cruel things? With a flash in her eyes, Ilhwa says that this concerns them too. Next time, weight will have to be added to the hips. One of the students dares to ask, won't that kill them? Ilhwa confidently answers that it can't kill them. The students do not dare to argue with her. Leaving the training ground, they think that she is a demon in the flesh. They stop, hearing her say that at this pace, soon they might become inner hall warriors. The students stop and turn to her. One of them asks, really? With their abilities, is it really possible? The girl confidently answers, of course. Abilities are honed in training. Namgun-jipen thinks, the honored guest of the heavenly guest house would not speak without reason. This is not a lie. Is she firmly convinced of this? Or is it just overconfidence? The students are inspired. One of them declares, yes, if he can become an inner hall warrior, he will overcome all difficulties. They ask Ilhwa, can she continue? Someone asks to count him as well. Namgun-jipen, still recovering, says, then him too. He mentally asks Ilhwa, calling her young master. Could it be that she does not know? The girl counts those wishing to continue training under her guidance. The young man thinks, no matter how much they improve their skills, it still won't work. Ilhwa throws the training sword over her shoulder. Looking at the exhausted students lying down, she says, all right, that's enough for today. One of the guys, without raising his head, groans, finally. Struggling to get up, they thank the girl for the lesson. Ilhwa allows them to leave. One of the students, still unable to stand, groans that after this, one could really die. A question sounds, again tomorrow. Namgun-jipen, standing behind the girl, calling her a young master, thanks her for her hard work. Straightening up and wiping sweat from his forehead, he says that they are all grateful to her for the training. Ilhwa thinks that everyone is doing well. She asks, maybe from tomorrow they will meet at the Red Dragon training ground? The young man clarifies. She means their training ground? The girl replies, she doesn't think they can continue to stay here. Namgun-jipen asks, she is not leaving, right? Ilhwa explains that she is just leaving the heavenly guest house. She thinks that soon she will stop being a guest and will become a member of the Namgun clan. She asks the young man to tell the other warriors about this, and also to accompany them so that they safely come to training tomorrow. The young man says that he appreciates that she encourages others. And then, looking downcast, he adds that nothing will work out. Ilhwa asks, what won't work out? Without raising his head, Namgun-jipen explains that he means becoming inner hall warriors. No matter how strong they become, still, nothing will work out. He says to the astonished girl, the higher the expectations, the stronger the disappointments. He fears that the guys might place false hopes and then blame themselves. Ilhwa asks, why? Why does he say that nothing will work out? Namgun-jipen answers, because they have no connections. Looking at the students standing nearby, he admits that he also had a dream to become an inner hall warrior, and he worked hard for more than 10 years. When they chose the younger one whose skills were weaker than his, he just thought he was unlucky. The second time he decided he had been overconfident, and the third time that he had made some mistake. When he performs sword techniques, maybe he has problems with his stance, or he misunderstood the spell of these techniques. Only after failing the exam 10 times did he understand everything. Remaining unnoticed, he eavesdropped on the conversation of other warriors. No matter how hard Namgun-jipen tried, he would not become a warrior of the inner hall. His skills were too good for an inner hall warrior. But what could be done? He had no connections. Namgun-jipen says, Even though they are bound by blood ties, there are factions even within the family. He continues to explain to the girl. The candidates who successfully pass the promotion exam are probably already determined. Ilkva listens to him attentively, thinking, understandable. Now, since it is unclear who will become the next head of the clan, the criteria for selecting warriors are not combat skills. It is only a matter of whose man he will be. Those without money or connections do not even get a chance to become someone's man. Therefore, today's promotion exams are a battlefield where factions supporting heirs compete, using any methods without hesitation to advance their people. The girl sighs, what a mess. What a... Namgunjipen asks her not to give the guys false hope. Ilwa replies that everything will change. The young man asks in surprise, what? The girl says that everything will change because she is here. The young man does not understand what she means. Ilkva asks, can he promise her that he will never give up? Namgunjipen answers, yes, he is good at this, so it is not difficult. The girl is upset. She asks, does he not believe her? The young man says, no. She decides that he is lying and does not blush. Looking at him, Ilwa thinks that there is no way to solve all the family's problems at once. The best thing she can do now is to become a link for this person. Looking up at him, the girl asks him to just believe her once. Mentally, she adds that he must achieve what he should have gotten a long time ago. She promises to help him. Namgun Jong-un, holding Ilwa's hand, asks how her hand is. The girl says that she seems to have answered that about 50 times. It doesn't hurt her at all. The man replies, good. He admits that he is too protective of her. The girl thinks he has been worried for some time. She wonders what the problem is. Namgun Jong-un tells his daughter that today the elders will learn about her return. He adds that it is truly a momentous day. The man explains that there will be many strangers there, but she should not pay attention to them. He tells her not to be afraid. Just greet them and come back. Namgun Jong-un assures her that he will stand behind and watch. Ilwa casts a glance at him, thinking, so he is afraid that these old foxes will manipulate her? She is not surprised by this. Ilwa stands in a large hall on a blue carpeted path, along which elders sit on chairs near small tables. Looking at them, the girl realizes that a child who lost her memory and was absent for 8 years is no different to them than a random passerby. Bowing before the clan head seated on a raised platform, Ilwa thinks that to strengthen her position, she must show them something at the very beginning. The girl greets him, calling the head grandfather. Namgun Mujong tells the girl, finally, he heard her call him grandpa. Before, she always called him clan head. Ilhwa replies, they say weak love scares more than a debt of 1,000 gold. Ilkva is glad that the head of the clan has already recognized her as his granddaughter. The girl says, if she were not Namgun's child, she would have had to leave this place immediately. But if she becomes attached to her grandfather, she would not want to leave, so she was afraid to call him that. Namgun Mujong and Seop Mugwan barely hold back tears, so touched are they by the girl's speech. Ilkva asks, can she call him grandpa from this moment? Punching the armrest, the clan leader exclaims, yes, let her call him that more often. It sounds good. The clan leader tells his granddaughter that on this special day he cannot express how happy he is that she also considers them family. Ilhwa understands that he is truly happy. Namgun Mujong says, everyone here will take care of her, so let her not worry and greet them. The girl, bowing, replies, yes. One of the elders says, she returned on her own. Most likely she had to go through a lot. The second elder even teared up, her childish little face so alive. He says he is glad to see her again. The third elder admires, to return as bright as before. This is a great blessing for the family. Next, the senior families speak. One of those present says that he is Namgun Yibek, head of the legal hall. He asks her to somehow visit them. Namgun Soyura, head of the finance hall, even teared up because thanks to the girl returning on her own, they saved 300 gold ingots. He sincerely thanks Ilhwa. Namgun M, head of the outer hall, says they are already acquainted, aren't they? Then Ilhwa turns to the heads of the 5 armies. She notes that everyone has joyful faces, but she wonders, how sincere are they? She thinks, how many of them can truly be trusted? Ilhwa wonders, how many of the people present here can she trust? She thinks that it is about understanding a person's heart. There is no need to rush here. In any case, now she can only meet them face to face and find out. The clan head approaches her, saying that the Namgun family has finally returned the child who disappeared 8 years ago. Since they sent out search announcements all over the world, now they must let the world know that the child has returned. Placing a hand on his granddaughter's shoulder, Namgun Mujong raises his other hand, pompously calling to spread the news throughout the central plain. He orders to open the barns of the main family and its branches to widely announce the child's return. The clan head commands to make all their enemies understand that behind the child they so eagerly want to obtain stands the Namgun clan. Everyone bows to his will. He continues to say that Namgun will never repeat the same mistake. He adds that they will not forget neither the grief of the past years when they lost the child, nor today's joy. Those present respond that they obey the head's order. The child who will one day become the sky of the Battle Alliance, Namgun Ilhwa, has finally returned to Namgun, Pavilion of Heavenly Peace. The girl walks accompanied by her father across a small bridge. She says, "He seems too big to use him alone." Father explains that her grandmother used to live in this place. He tells his daughter that this place is called the most beautiful in Namgun. Grandfather specifically ordered to give it to her. Her gaze falls on the beautiful flowers. She hears Namgun Jong-un say, "It seems grandfather wants her to see more beautiful things." While the girl, leaning over the flower bed, examines the flowers, a servant appears before them. He greets them and says that the chief manager and Master Sop Mugwan have come to them. He asks, should he let them in? Meanwhile, both men froze at the foot of the stairs, waiting for Namgun Jong-un's decision. The chief manager asks Sop Mugwan with displeasure, on what grounds did he come here? As he sees it, the manager himself has important matters to take care of. Sop Mugwan answers him. Does he need a reason to visit? He came to see the little lady. Namgun Moon is outraged. What nonsense is this? It's rude to burst into someone else's house just because he wants to see someone. Sop Mugwan calmly replies that he is very close to the little lady, so everything is fine. The chief manager is angry. He asks, does he call the young lady little lady? Sop Mugwan says he has been sulking from the very beginning, hasn't he? He is upset because he is no longer as close to the young lady as before? Namgun Moon, overly emotional, objects. That's not true. Sop Mugwan, despite his interlocutor's anger, remains completely calm. He says, then maybe the chief manager is jealous that he is close to the young lady. If he is jealous, it means he lost. Namgun Jong-un asks, what are they talking about so passionately? Smiling, he adds that he should have walked more slowly so as not to disturb them. The chief manager rushes at him so swiftly that Namgun Jong-un even recoiled in surprise. Grabbing his hands, Namgun Moon assures that he arrived just in time and says he is very glad to see the young master. Then the chief manager rushes to Ilkve. He greets her and introduces himself, saying his name is Namgun Moon, and he is the chief manager of the clan. The girl respectfully bows her head, greeting him. She states her name, Namgun Ilhwa. The chief manager says she can call him Grandpa. She used to address him that way before. Ilkva says confusedly, yes, grandfather chief manager, but her gaze falls on a cart loaded with gold and jewelry. The girl wonders, what is this? The chief manager explains. These are jewels, silk, gold bars, and elixirs given to her by the head of the clan. Ilkva says, so much. Really? Namgun Moon asks her not to refuse. He says that she was supposed to receive these things by right, and they are being given to her now. He rushes to the cart, asking if she wants to take a look. He thinks the gold bars are too plain, so it's better to set them aside. Demonstrating to Ilkve the fabric embroidered with gold, he says, silks and fabrics of the highest quality. Of course, they also prepared clothes, so she won't have to sew anything herself. The girl wonders, then why does she need this fabric at all? Namgun Moon, meanwhile, throws the cloth aside and shakes a small pouch, explaining that these are nourishing elixirs for her health. They removed all danger, but she still must not overdo it. The girl mentally replies, it will take months to use them all. Meanwhile, the chief manager decides to truly surprise her and takes the jewelry box in his hands. He hands it to the girl and she immediately opens it. A radiance bursts out from there. Namgun Moon says that the head personally bought these valuable items during his travels outside the clan. He constantly thought about and missed her until her return. He asks her, aren't they beautiful? Ilhwa looks at the contents of the box. While she studies the gift, her father says to the chief manager, this is not the amount that the head of the financial hall would so easily give away. Namgun Moon replies that he threw a terrible tantrum, so he had to calm him down. What else could he do? After all, it is the head's order. To the ears of the chief manager comes. It doesn't seem like she likes it, does it? Angry Namgun Moon sharply turns to Sop Mugwan with the words, what is he talking about? Is there a fog in his eyes? Isn't it obvious how happy she is? The interlocutor objects, but that's not so. Anyone can tell that she doesn't have a happy face. Sop Mugwan says that the chief manager understands nothing, but he has a gift that will truly please this child. With these words, he takes out a long narrow bundle from his wide sleeve. The man hands it to the girl, saying that this is his gift in honor of her return. Ilhwa takes the bundle. Sop Mugwan suggests unwrapping it right away and removes the wrapping paper. Beneath it, a sword appears, and sparks immediately light up in the girl's eyes. Ilhwa asks, can she take it out of the scabbard? And Sop Mugwan answers, naturally. The girl slowly pulls the sword out of the scabbard. She mentally evaluates the gift. It smoothly slips out of the scabbard, the blade gleams, the aura chills the soul. She can say this without even swinging it. This sword is a true work of art. She asks the self-satisfied, smiling Sop Mugwan, "Is this Hanchol?" The man replies, so she recognized it. She must understand how rare weapons forged from Hanchol are. The girl cannot believe that he is really giving it to her. Sop Mugwan confirms that it is so. From now on, the sword belongs to her. He asks, does she like it? Holding the jewelry box under his arm, which he took so the girl could examine the sword, he places his hand on her head, saying that her happy appearance brings him joy. He adds that he once owned this sword himself. He asks the girl to become its new mistress. Ilwa hides the sword in its sheath and notices that the word lightning is engraved right on the hilt. Sop Mugwan tells the girl that she must become the new mistress of this sword. Ilwa asks, does it have a name? The man replies that its name is the Sword of Heavenly Thunder. But now it belongs to Ilwa, and she can give it another name. The girl wonders, can she use it? Sop Mugwan thinks. Seeing how much she likes his gift, his heart warms. Staying up all night sharpening the sword was worth it. The man says she can go to the training hall. Ilwa immediately runs off. Sop Mugwan shouts after her. If she is careless and gets hurt again, she will have problems. All three men watch the girl leave. Sop Mugwan sighs and says, a person speaks, and she didn't even listen to the end. Then he adds, quickly, very quickly. Who taught the little one to run through the air? The chief steward, lowering his head, passes by Namgun Jong-un. He calls out to him sympathetically, but Namgun Mun replies that everything is fine. Since he saw the joy of the young lady, he will consider that a consolation. Nodding toward the cart full of valuables, the chief steward says, he is sure this showed the feelings of the clan head. Now he needs to think about what gift to present to the young lady personally. He orders the servants to ensure these items are carefully arranged in the young lady's chambers. Two men standing nearby bow politely. The chief steward is called, and he looks back. A young servant, bowing, says that gifts have arrived for the young lady. He asks, should they also be placed in her chambers? Namgun Moon asks, does he want to say that someone sent gifts to the lady? But who? The servant apologizes, explaining that he was not told this, so he does not know. He asks, should he find out? The chief manager thinks, less than 4 hours have passed since the announcement of the lady's return. Sending a gift so quickly and leaving without a word looks very strange. He says they should check these things first. Meanwhile, the girl is practicing with a sword on the training ground. She feels how the wind flowing along the sword makes her body lighter. The hilt fits in her hand perfectly. She has the feeling that this sword was forged especially for her. Clenching the hilt, she mentally utters its name. Sword of Heavenly Thunder. Making a lunge forward with the sword, Ilwa thinks that this is a fitting name for such a beautiful weapon. She feels that she can cut anything with it. Nothing and no one can stand before it. Yes, for example, even the hand of a demonic beast that will appear in the future. Imagining how a huge clawed paw descends on her, wanting to crush her like a bug, the girl thinks that she entrusts herself to this sharp sword that shows her the way. Drawing a free trajectory with the sword and moving freely in the desired direction, she strikes blow after blow and moves forward. Ilwa continues to perform incredible somersaults, testing her new sword. She freezes, raising a sword in her hand. Then straightening up and lowering her hand, the girl says that she needs to change her name. Not Sword of Heavenly Thunder, but Sword of Heavenly Lightning. If she traces a path with the sword wide enough to encompass the whole world, she will be able to breach the plan of the bloody demon. Raising the sword above her head and flashing her eyes victoriously, she mentally adds, destroying the foretold future and filling it with new possibilities. A vase falls to the floor and breaks. The wife of the second young lord, sitting at a low table, deliberately knocked it to the floor with a careless movement of her hand. Looking at the broken vase, she says, not only rare treasures, but also gold and silver. Truly, as befits the head, the woman says angrily. It seems the father is very pleased with the return of his eldest granddaughter. She asks the man sitting on the floor opposite her. Doesn't he think so? He shrinks fearfully and bows his head as low as possible, saying, of course he values the young lady he found after 8 years. Even then, before her disappearance, he loved Lady Ilkva very much. The woman forcefully puts the cup down on the table. The man hastily adds, but still this time the head of the clan went too far. Such rare treasures. If these treasures had been given to young Lord So-Ren, he would definitely have become an unsurpassed genius in the world. The woman says that So-Ren is already a genius. Even in Namgun there is no child capable of competing with him. The man, feigning laughter, supports her. She is absolutely right. Since the young lord has no rivals, even the elite of the inner hall had to train with him. The woman sarcastically replies that young Lord So-Ren's skills are amazing, even without these rare treasures. Having received them, the worm cannot become a dragon, can it? The man obsequiously answers, A fine and true statement. The woman says that is exactly what needs to be shown. Her interlocutor asks, what? Raising the cup to her lips, in a calmer voice, the woman explains to him, only half a month remains until the great tournament of the heavens. She asks, is the preparation progressing without problems? The man hastily says, yes, of course. Bowing his head low, he says, since the upcoming tournament will evaluate not only the warriors of the inner and outer halls, but also the achievements of the direct heirs, he made sure that the preparations were flawless. The woman says, good. In half a month no worm can become a dragon. She, flashing her eyes fiercely, adds that he should, just in case, make sure that no one feeds this worm. Ilwa looks at the gift with astonished eyes. In front of her lies a small wooden plaque with signs inscribed on it, to which 2 small amber-colored spheres are attached. Namgun Mujong, standing before her, says that it was delivered to her today. One of the people who came to gather grain said it was a gift. Ilwa asks, did they catch this person? The clan leader replies that they caught him, but he is not connected to this item in any way. On the way here, he was paid to carry out a task. The chief manager, bowing deeply, says that they used a drug for interrogation, so one can be sure that his answers are truthful. Namgun Mujong thinks that this does not look like an ordinary gift, so he called her. Behind the girl stands her father, but he does not interfere in their conversation. The clan leader asks his granddaughter, does she know anything about him? Ilwa, lowering her head, thinks, has at least half a day passed since the announcement of her return? How exhausting all this is. She looks at the plaque, on which is written, the bloody warrior of the 12th month will appear soon. The girl is thinking, sending her this token means issuing a challenge, putting all the titles and names earned so far at stake. The fight will be to the death, to fight until one side dies. Perhaps they want to say that the only end for a traitor is death. Her hand clenches into a fist as she says this challenge is for her. Raising her head and looking into the grandfather's eyes, Ilkva says that she must meet with them. The clan leader replies that it is impossible. The girl is angry. She insists that she must go. This has nothing to do with Namgun. She must deal with it herself. Namgun Mujong replies that she is Namgun's child. He asks, how can this matter not be connected to Namgun? The clan must protect her. Ilkva tries to object, but after all, the clan leader decisively interrupts her. Enough! He says he understands. This ban prevents her from saying who sent her this item, but he cannot put her in danger without any information. Namgun Mujong adds that she must think only about her safety. The family elders will take care of the rest. He addresses the chief manager. The clan leader throws the tag on the floor at his feet. Namgun Moon picks her up. The girl throws herself forward, exclaiming, Grandfather! The father holds her by the shoulders, saying warningly, Ilkva! The girl thinks, no. The 12th month must know about suggestion, how to destroy suggestion, what the bloody demon is plotting. Without meeting him, she will not get a single clue. She does not intend to miss this chance to get clues from their careless actions. Ilwa tells her grandfather that she has a plan. Namgun Mujong replies. He clearly said that he will not allow reckless actions. The girl assures that everything will be fine as long as she is not in danger. Ilwa says that there is a way to catch the enemy without any harm. She asks to be heard, and adds in a pleading tone, please. The clan leader and the chief manager silently look at her. Namgun Mujong sighs, stubborn as always. He agrees. All right, let her tell about her plan. Ilwa and her father walk through the yard, holding hands. Namgun Jong-un says that it really causes concern. The girl asks, why? The father asks a question. Why is she asking? He says that maybe she will not get hurt, but isn't it dangerous that someone has targeted her? Ilwa, looking at her father, sighs. She understands that he really worries. She thinks, how is he going to survive in this cruel world with such a fragile soul? The man, looking into her eyes, reflects that at such a young age his daughter has already seen many scenes of cruelty. He wonders what to do. The girl thinks, dangerous or not, the mission still needs to be completed. She tells her father that she wants to learn something. He clarifies, what exactly does she want to learn? Ilwa asks him to teach her the Namgun cultivation method. She thinks, since the blood cult has begun to act, they can no longer waste time. She needs to strengthen her energy in advance so that this new body can easily master the Namgun martial arts. At the very least, she must be in a more stable state than now when she meets the 12th moon. Namgun Jong-un says, as for the cultivation method, she will soon start learning it from the head of the combat squad, right? Maybe it would be better to train together with children her age. The girl squeezes his palm tighter, insisting that she wants to learn now. She says that even before coming to Namgun, she was eagerly looking forward to it. Looking at him with such a look that refusing her becomes a very difficult task, she imploringly says, can't he teach her? She pretends that she is about to cry. No more special persuasion was needed. The father picks up Ilkva in his arms, offering her to start training right now. From behind the door, the voice of Namgun Jong-un is heard, saying that from this moment he will recite mnemonic verses and guide her inner energy. Father and daughter sit on the floor in the room. Namgun Jong-un, positioned behind Ilwa, says that she needs to carefully memorize the movements of the flow. The man places his palms on the girl's back. A stream of energy begins to swirl around them. He says that the cultivation method he will show her is the foundation of all martial arts of the Namgun clan. Namgun Jong-un, influencing the girl's chi with his own energy, explains that this is the process of absorbing the energy of the boundless sky and accumulating it in one's body. He says that the sky originally fills everything around, spreading over the earth they walk on. Therefore, every breath, every breeze is like a touch with the sky itself. The sky is not something distant. It is already here, all around them, filled with abundance. The energy of the sky is changeable but always arrives in balance and harmony with itself. Continuing the influence, he explains that controlling this celestial energy, which he described, is the foundation of the Namgun cultivation method. He uses the technique, great divine art of sky control. Energy flows swirl around them. Namgun Jong-un tells his daughter, let her feel how energy flows through her meridians. Ilwa, sitting with closed eyes, feels the energy of her father. She thinks that hers is not as powerful as her grandfather's, but its purity is impeccable. She feels it like a clear stream flowing through her whole body, filling it with itself. She hears the voice of Namgun Jong-un announcing that today's training is over. Father asks, is it difficult? He says that it is hard to catch the flow of energy immediately, so it is better for them to move step by step. Looking at the girl's hands, folded so that the fingers of the left hand touch the fingers of the right, he realizes with surprise that she is directing her own energy. Holding his palms on her back, he asks her to stop. If she directs the internal energy incorrectly, she will fall into chi deviation. The radiation of energy around them intensifies. In Namgun Jong-un's thoughts flashes, he understands that this is a flawless, continuous flow. Isn't this what he taught her? The man continues to keep his palm on his daughter's back. His amazement knows no bounds. His palms feel that Ilwa is even absorbing other energy. Namgun Jong-un recoils from the girl. He thinks, what wild energy, like that of a beast that has been starving for a long time. Ilwa continues to sit with her eyes closed. A light haze of energy swirls around her head. Finally, the girl opens her eyes. She turns her head back to look at her father. Namgun Jong-un asks, is she finished? The man is curious. Has she already been familiar with the Namgun cultivation method? The girl answers that her father taught her. He asks, does she mean that she simply copied what he showed only once? Namgun Jong-un asks Ilhwa a question. Does the daughter know how many cultivation levels she has already risen after seeing this method only once? The girl looks at him, waiting for him to continue. The father says that in martial arts, there are usually 12 levels of mastery. Reaching the 10th level means that a person has fully mastered the martial art, and it is called great perfection when he reaches the 12th level. By making this martial art his flesh and blood, he will achieve great unity. An ordinary person will need at least 1 to 2 years to reach the 3rd level. The girl asks, really? Namgun Jong-un assures that even in that case, she would be called a genius. He adds that her cultivation is currently at the 3rd level. He tells the slightly surprised girl that what would take a genius a year, she achieved in just 2 hours. Ilhwa says, I see. The father says that this should not be taken lightly. Namgun Jong-un is clearly not pleased with the thought that his daughter is a genius. Looking at her, he thinks, no, she is a unique talent that the world will never see again. On a crowded street, 2 passers-by in traditional headwear stop. The shorter one calls out to his tall companion, Teacher! Looking at the tall buildings and the people bustling around them, he asks, so this is Hefei, one of the greatest cities of the Central Plains. The head of the swordmasters of the Blooming Plum from the Hashan clan, Namun, answers, yes, it is in this city that the sword of the heavenly dragon and phoenix resides, one of the 10 greatest masters under heaven. He adds that the student must be visiting Hefei for the first time. The disciple is curious. Will they be able to meet the sword of the heavenly dragon and the phoenix? Will they be able to see the sword of the Namgun clan? But Moon says he warns him in advance. They did not come here for entertainment, but to celebrate an important event for the Namgun clan. The disciple, without much thought and without choosing his words, says that it is still like quenching thirst and other natural bodily needs at the same time. Passers-by begin to glance at them sideways. The punishing hand descends on his head, forcing him to crouch. A stern voice asks, where did he pick up such phrases? The first disciple Yu Fei from the Huashan clan says that he should remember their goal and not cause a commotion. The first disciple Yugan, adjusting his headwear which had slipped onto his forehead under the weight of Yufei's hand, replies that the elder brother can rely on him. But Moon says, all right. He expresses hope that they really have nothing to worry about. He suggests first finding an inn where they can stay for the night. The man advises the disciples to hurry. Twilight falls on the city. The attention of passers-by is attracted by a closed carriage. One of the onlookers asks, "What is this? The carriage of the Namgun clan?" His companion says, "They say the young lady has returned to the Namgun clan." Only a vague silhouette of a human figure can be seen in the carriage. Passers-by decide that the person riding in the carriage is the very lady who returned after 8 years. A boy exclaims, "That's Lord Jong-un!" A young man standing nearby says in surprise, "So the young lord has also returned?" Looking at Namgun Jong-un sitting on a horse, accompanying the carriage and smiling kindly at those around, people rejoice. Now Namgun will gain stability. That is good. Peace in Namgun is also their peace. A person whose face is hidden by a black veil watches the departing carriage. Ilwa, sitting at a low table, is eating tangulu. They ask her, does she really think that her disguise will make them appear? Sop Mugwan, sitting next to her, is curious. Isn't she afraid that Mr. Jong-un and the head of the Namgun clan will make this whole journey in vain? The head of the medical hall is sitting opposite the man, on the other side of the girl. Sop Mugwan asks Ilwa to speak honestly. He questions her. They do have a secret signal, right? That's why she is so sure that if she goes out to the main hall, they will appear. The girl places a stick next to several others like it, saying, "No, it's just her assumption." Jo-ren is surprised. An assumption? The clan head will act personally. Does she know about this? The girl hums in response and brings another tangulu to her mouth. Sop Mugwan says, calling Ilhwa baby. Should this be considered insolence? Even if the clan head acts personally, and she doesn't notice a single trace of those bastards. Suddenly, the man feels unwell. He lifts himself from his seat. Everything is spinning before his eyes. Sop Mugwan brings his hand to his mouth. The head of the medical hall anxiously asks him, "What happened?" A cup falls on the table from the sudden movement. Looking at it, the man thinks, "This is poison. He only drank tea. When was he poisoned? Who did it?" Sop Mugwan, losing consciousness, falls headfirst onto the table. Jo-ren and Ilwa look at the motionless Sop Mugwan. The girl calls out to him, then places 2 fingers on his neck, searching for a pulse. The head of the medical hall, watching her movements, exclaims, "Could it be that the young lady does not trust her?" Smiling, Jo-ren explains that, as the girl wanted, she only made him lose consciousness. She did say the medicine was reliable, didn't she? Looking at the unconscious Sop Mugwan lying there, the woman says that the young lady really has a talent for complicating everything. How will she settle everything when the god of wind and lightning wakes up? Jo-ren adds that her help ends here. As the young lady promised, she will relieve her of the trouble with this matter, right? Rising from her seat, the girl replies that she already promised her that. The head of the medical hall asks, will she also be poisoned and fall asleep just like Sop Mugwan? The girl calls her shameless. Jo-ren, not embarrassed at all, answers that that is indeed the case. The woman looks thoughtfully at Ilwa. She calls out to the girl who has already taken off the light kaftan and remains in the dark suit. By this time, Ilwa has already climbed onto the railing, intending to leave her. Jo-ren asks, she planned from the very beginning to handle this matter alone? Using the carriage was also part of the plan, but it didn't work? The woman says that Ilhwa cannot always solve all the world's problems alone. She adds, since the young lady is such a stubborn one, she must return safe and sound. The girl, listening to her, pulls a cloth over the lower part of her face. Without answering Jo-ren, the girl leaves the mansion grounds, moving through the air and making giant leaps. Moving swiftly, Ilhwa looks around cautiously, not wanting to be caught off guard. She lands in the clearing and freezes in anticipation. The girl feels that the opponent is approaching. She counts, 1 step forward, 2, 3. In her head flashes, now, and the girl raises her sword, defending against the opponent's attack. A knife, thrown by a skillful hand, relentlessly approaches her blade. She decides, now. With 1 swing of the sword, she deflects the knife thrown at her. The girl makes another swing of the sword, describing a semicircle around herself. 8 knives are already rushing towards her. Ilhwa pushes off with his foot and leaves the place where he was just standing. The girl rushes to meet the daggers flying at her. She thinks if her opponent is the one who wields the flying blade. With a lightning-fast movement of the sword, Ilhwa deflects all the knives flying at her. A pillar of red energy rushes from the sky to the clearing. Ilhwa freezes in a combat stance, holding the sword in front of her. She utters only 1 word, "Come out." Her opponent, calling her Lady Huaru, says that she is still reckless. The girl says, "Hello," then names the opponent, Pa Wol. The young man steps onto the clearing and stands opposite her. Ilhwa asks, "Did he even come out to see her off?" It wasn't necessary, she handled it perfectly anyway. He asks, why did she leave so hastily without even saying goodbye? The girl replies that they are not in such a relationship to greet and say goodbye to each other at every meeting. Pa Wol, lowering his hand to the hilt of the blade, says, well then. When he heard the news that she betrayed their lord and fled, he was so glad. Does she know why? Ilhwa says she is lost in guesses. Lost. Drawing the blade, the young man explains, because he will finally be able to kill her. Pa Wol adds, it was absurd that a nobody from nowhere became Huaru. He always wanted at least once to fight her face to face. He says to the girl, if he kills her, I wonder, will he be able to become Lord Huaru? What does she think? If he brings her head, will the Lord favor him? Pa Wol attacks Ilhwa. He strikes with the blade, but the girl, ducking, slips under his hand. She thinks, the same jealousy as always. Mentally, she speaks disparagingly about her opponent. Swords of Pa Wol and Ilkva cross. The girl intensifies the attack, but the opponent holds the blade with a firm hand. Making an effort, the girl throws the young man back. Unable to keep his footing, he drops to his knees. Standing over him, Ilkva says, he is lucky that she does not need such attention at all. So, if he is so lacking it, he can pick it up. Pa Wol spits out angrily. Arrogant girl. He shouts that she must not dare to insult the bloody demon. Does she not know that he is still alive only thanks to his mercy? The girl asks, mercy? Does Pa Wol even know what mercy is? Rising to his feet and gripping his sword, he calls her foolish and adds, let her continue to deny it. He says that no matter how hard she fights, she cannot escape the hands of their lord. While she is under the influence of suggestion, she is no different from a foal that cannot even control its own body. Ilkva thinks, she knew he was aware. This loyal dog will never voluntarily reveal how to remove the suggestion. The girl says the opponent's name, Pa Wol. Reaching out her hand to him, she says she will fight seriously, just as he wants. Waving her fingers at him, she invites him to attack. Pa Wol attacks Ilhwa. Their swords move with incredible speed. The girl tries to increase the distance, but the opponent does not allow her to do so. Ilhwa thinks, he does not retreat a single step. At such a distance, it is impossible to use any powerful technique. She slips away from another strike of the opponent, thinking, no problem. The fact that the sword is long does not mean it should be swung with full force. Pa Wol attacks in a jump. The girl, pushing off the ground with her feet, parries his strike in the air. She understands that she only needs to slightly turn his blade, and it will slide to the side by itself. The opponents come together and then separate, only to meet again in a deadly duel. Again repelling Pa Wol's attack, Ilhwa asks, does he remember? The girl reminds the opponent that he has already pointed his sword at her several times in a fit of anger. Ilhwa says that Pa Wol is now even weaker than he was back then. A confused expression appears on the young man's face, but it lasts only a few moments. Stretching his lips into a smile, he says, what nonsense is coming out of her mouth? Placing his blade under the girl's sword, he adds, even if she is bluffing. Rushing towards her, he says, does she really think that anything will change? With a powerful strike, Ilhwa repels his attack, but Pavolya still manages to graze her. The young man thinks that the girl should know that wounds inflicted by a sword soaked in blood energy are not so easy to heal. He wonders, does she plan to just keep deflecting his attacks? He decides that it does not matter. After all, death from blood loss is more than she deserves. Feeling her life draining drop by drop. At this thought, Pavolya's eyes ignite with blood-red energy. He, armed with a second blade, lunges at the girl, using the blood tear dagger technique. Ilhwa grips her sword tighter, preparing to repel his attack. The young man, in a leap, hovers over the girl's head, ready to deliver the decisive blow. But Ilhwa makes a jump and increases the distance between them. Pavolya's blade is engulfed in flames. He thinks the girl has enough courage to jump right between the sword strikes. But he managed to wound Ilhwa's leg with one strike. And with the second, he inflicted a wound on her shoulder. Pavolya turns around and attacks Ilhwa again. Performing an incredible somersault, the girl kicks him in the stomach. She grips the sword hilt with both hands, preparing to deliver a stabbing strike. Ilhwa pierces the opponent's body with her sword. A muffled sound bursts from his mouth, and blood spurts from the wound on his back. Curled up on the ground, Pa Wol coughs, bleeding. Bending down and covering his face with his elbow, he forces out, she is small. Raising his eyes to her, the young man says, he thought she was pretending to be righteous to infiltrate the Namgun clan. Looking at the girl enveloped in a deadly aura, Pa Wol says she is simply a wolf hiding among sheep. He adds, who would even approve of the murderous energy emanating from her now? Pa Wol believes her true nature will never change. Ilhwa's hand grips the sword hilt tighter. He tries to say something else, but the girl, raising the sword above her head, interrupts him, saying he doesn't even know his own place. Pa Wol gropes behind the lapel of his kaftan, then suddenly throws two small spheres connected to each other between them. The girl retreats, an explosion is heard. She covers her face with her hand, bent at the elbow. Looking over her hand, she realizes that this is not ordinary smoke. Pavel used a sleeping gas bomb. Looking at the small golden spheres lying on the ground, the girl mentally curses. A smoke bomb with sleeping gas bought Pavel enough time to slip away. However, rushing with all his might, he still could not understand. Why did the suggestion technique not work? But soon Pavel's thoughts were cut off by a kunai that swiftly caught up with the assassin. He immediately fell to the ground, and Solkva appeared from behind the trees. Pavel began to beg for mercy, but the girl reminded him that he himself had provoked the fight, putting his life at stake. Then Solkva reached out her hand to Pavel, and he was seized by horror. However, contrary to expectations, Solkva did not finish off her enemy. Instead, she delivered several precise strikes to acupuncture points to stop the bleeding, and then the girl even began to bandage the enemy's wound. Pavel asked confusedly what she was doing, to which Solkva reminded him that he himself had begged her for mercy. But that was only the first time. Solkva decided to spare the enemy's life because she did not want to behave predictably. After all, if she killed Pavel now, it would only please the bloody demon, and he would definitely say that only the Tower of the Fiery Raven is the only suitable place for Solkva. Pavel's death was predestined. The bloody demon used him as a pawn. That is why Solkva decided not to kill Pavel, and she also wanted him to deliver her message to the bloody demon. Pavel dared to ask what exactly, and then Solkva declared that from now on she is the sword of the Namun clan, not the bloody demon. In response, the stunned Pavel asked Solkva, why is she trying to escape while under the favor of the bloody demon? After all, Pavel always risked his life trying to win his favor, so why does everything always go to Solkva among all the children? However, in response to the accusations, the girl stated that she is no different from Pavel. The harsh truth is that they both torment each other to near death just for the amusement of the bloody demon. So there is no difference between them. The only difference is the duration of use and the method of killing. And since Solkva and Pavel are in the same boat, the girl suggested helping each other survive. With these words, Solkva showed Pavel what was left of the bell and asked if he knew how to get rid of the suggestion technique. In response, Pavel admitted that the master gave him this bell as a gift and said that with its help he could subjugate Solkva. The girl found it strange that the bloody demon had informed Pavel of such important information, but soon she felt that the effect of the sleep bomb began to spread. Therefore, Solkva decided to leave quickly and said goodbye to Pavel, telling him not to forget to deliver her message. However, as soon as the girl took just a couple of steps, Pavel fell to the ground at that very moment, and when Solkva turned around, she saw another assassin of the Huaru clan above his lifeless body. But when he turned around himself, the girl was seized by horror, all because the man standing before her held the post of the personal executioner of the bloody demon, and bore the title of the second moon. His name was Sanvol. However, despite his status in the clan, he respectfully greeted the young lady. Then Sanvol explained that he had received orders to kill Pavel if the young lady tried to let him go alive. Solkva managed to compose herself and said that Pavel was her messenger, to which Sanvol asked to deliver messages through him from now on. And then he stated that in the current state, the Namun clan was no place for the young lady, because an ordinary cat cannot stand against a tiger. Then Solkva declared that she would handle it herself, but Sanvol calmly conveyed to her the words of his master. The young lady could return to the bloody demon at any time, as soon as she was done playing. Fear of Sanvol turned into anger. Solkva emitted a threatening aura of chi and declared that she would not return. But in response, Sanvol, still calm, explained that her words did not matter, because the bloody demon always gets everything he desires. However, Sanvol had to note that for a person in such a weakened state, the chi of the young lady was frighteningly powerful. Therefore, he decided to take his leave, since Solkva had nothing more to say. However, as a farewell, Sanvol asked her to take care of her own health until their next meeting. As soon as he left, Solkva also decided to hurry back to the palace while she still had strength. However, barely moving her legs, the girl was tormented by the question, why didn't Sanvol take her away right now? Solkva assumed that he simply did not consider her a worthy opponent, which hurt the girl's pride. But she was very glad for the delay from the bloody demon. Soon Solkva's last strength left her and she helplessly fell to the ground. But before the world was swallowed by darkness, the girl managed to notice a blurred silhouette running towards her. And then Solkva found herself in a real nightmare. Around her lay the bodies of those she had killed in her past life, and at the very epicenter stood the bloody demon. He raised his bloodied hand and reminded the girl that if she did not kill, she would be killed. Fortunately, at that moment the nightmare ended and Solkva suddenly opened her eyes. Sitting down on the ground, the girl noticed that dawn had already come, and she was also covered with a garment that belonged to someone from the Hashan clan. But more importantly, Solkva's hands and feet were tied. The girl did not have to guess who her captor was, because the next moment Yugun approached her. Naturally, Solkva did not know his name, and he, meanwhile, asked if she had not frozen during the night. In response, the girl assured him that she was fine, to which Yugan asked her not to fall asleep just anywhere in the future. Then Solkva asked who he was and where his master was. In response, Yugen awkwardly admitted that his master did not even know he was here. Last night, Namun categorically forbade him to go outside. But Yugen managed to sneak out, and if it were not for Solkva, he would have just played for an hour and then returned home. Solkva did not understand what the young man was talking about at all and asked to be untied. But in response, Yugen said he could not do that. All because the girl looked incredibly dangerous, as if the word killer was written on her forehead. In response to such a statement, Solkva indignantly retorted. But then Yugen asked, why is all her clothing stained with blood? To the question, Solkva answered with a question. If she is so dangerous, then why did Yugen spare her? In response, the young man pondered, and then admitted that at first he wanted to take Solkva to Namun, but after thinking a little, he realized who the girl really was. Then Yugen pointed at Solkva with his finger, and with a sly smile declared that she was the young lady of the Namgun clan. At these words, Solkva got angry and, barely restraining her malice, asked, why did Yugen tie her up if he knew who she was? In his defense, the young man explained that Solkva's chi seemed a little strange to him, as if there were some impurities in it, so he decided to be cautious. However, despite the explanation, the girl gave Yugen a deadly look and ordered him to untie her immediately. Yugen immediately obeyed the order and apologized once again for the misunderstanding. However, in the next moment, Solkva responded to him with a powerful burst of concentrated chi. The young man barely managed to dodge the attack, but Solkva did not allow him to recover, and attacked again. Yugen managed to block the strike with his own chi. However, to his surprise, the girl was stronger. She broke through his defense and struck his chest with full force of her palm. From such a blow, Yugen was thrown backward, causing him to crash into a tree. Nevertheless, the young man smiled quite a bit and stated that Solkva is amazingly strong. But the girl didn't care about the praise. Now she was interested in, what business did Yugen have with her? In response, the young man got up from the ground and finally introduced himself as the first disciple of the Hashan clan. Then Solkva asked what brought the Hashan clan disciple to Hefe, but Yugen replied that it was a secret. However, he then asked the girl to put in a good word for him before the teacher when they returned to the city. But Solkva didn't care about the young man's problems. She silently turned around and headed back to the palace. Then Yugen followed the girl and reminded her that he actually saved her life and even sheltered her from the cold with his kimono. In response, Solkva stopped and explained that she was not in a position to help anyone. However, she would not forget the help given. So if Yugen needed anything, he could come to the Namgun family at any time. Then Yugen cautiously asked, would he be able to see the girl if he came to the Namgun clan? In response, Solkva nodded, which made the young man happy, and he suggested that at their next meeting they fight like the swordsmen of Hashan and Namgun. However, the girl refused, which made Yugen immediately sad, and he asked sadly, why? Then in response, Solkva smiled and said that if he wanted to cross blades with her, he should come when he becomes stronger. And after these words, Solkva left without saying goodbye, and Yugen could only watch her retreating figure and, blushing, say that it would be wonderful. Soon Solkva safely returned to the Namgun clan palace. However, the servants were not eager to greet their young mistress. They were afraid to approach the girl as if she were leprous. The cause was the smell of blood and the frightening aura of chi that Solkva emitted. Soon Namgun Muchon blocked her way, and the girl calmly greeted him as the head of the clan and her grandfather. In response, Muchon said nothing, only silently led his granddaughter to her chambers. And when Solkva washed and changed clothes, he personally examined her using chi. However, soon the clan head broke the silence and asked his granddaughter if she wished to tell him something. In response, Solkva apologized for her deception, but said she did not want anyone to suffer because of her. Then Muchon said that something Solkva could handle, someone else could also solve. And then the clan leader asked his granddaughter, does he really seem so unreliable to her that she decided to act alone? But in response, Solkva averted her gaze from her grandfather and stated that she herself created the problem, so she must solve it. Moreover, Solkva would not have been allowed to go anywhere anyway, even if she had honestly told everything. Muchon tried to explain that it was necessary for her protection, but Solkva declared that she returned to the clan not for her protection, but to fight. These words shocked the clan leader because he finally realized that his granddaughter had been raised to be a killer. Meanwhile, Solkva said she would accept any punishment as long as it helped to soften the family's anger. But then she asked not to be restricted and promised that she would do everything possible to avoid harm. However, in response, Muchon stood up, sighed heavily, and asked, how dare Solkva speak so carelessly about death? As grandfather, Muchon understood that Solkva was not going to retreat, but as head of the family, he was obliged to ensure his granddaughter's protection. Of course, Muchon did not intend to lock Solkva in his chambers, but he demanded that she remember 3 rules. First, from now on, Solkva must never lie to him. If she plans something, she must at least inform the clan leader. Secondly, Solkva must always keep a guard with her. But if she reaches the peak of mastery before the age, Muchon is ready to stop insisting on this. Solkva agreed with the first 2 rules. Then Muchon placed his palm on his granddaughter's shoulder and voiced the 3rd rule. He would never hit her or deprive her of food, so Solkva should not say that she would accept any punishment. The essence of punishment is to help the child realize their mistakes, not to harm them. And finally, Muchon asked his granddaughter to trust him and not to struggle alone. As long as Solkva could remember, she had never heard such kind words. Therefore, when Muchon removed his hand from her shoulder, the girl suddenly grabbed his sleeve and asked for help for the first time. After some time, Muchon left Solkva's chambers, deciding to give his granddaughter time to rest and personal space. However, in the courtyard, a very anxious Chongun was waiting for him. He asked about his daughter's well-being, to which Muchon calmed his son and assured him that Solkva just needed to rest. Also, the head advised Chongun to visit his daughter as well, but in response, he asked for an audience. Muchon invited his son to his office, and there Chongun revealed that many in the clan were discussing Solkva, and that there was ill rumor about her. People say that Solkva approached the clan from the very beginning to kidnap its secrets, but that is not what worries Chongun. What troubles him is not the rumors themselves, but that everyone believes them too much, as if they personally saw Solkva's escape. Muchon agreed with his son, since less than a day had passed since Solkva's escape. That is too little time for the rumors to have strengthened. That means someone deliberately provoked these rumors. This news shocked Chongun, and he asked his father who could be capable of such meanness. However, in response, Muchon stated that Solkva is already looking to the future, and if so, the Namgun clan must support her. And this can only be done if Chongun replaces his father and becomes the new head of the clan. Chongun was about to object, but Muchon said that his son would have already stopped all the rumors if he had enough strength. Then Chongun reminded his father that he had been away from his place for a whole 8 years, so it would be very difficult to fill the resulting void. However, in response, Muchon calmly stated that in 6 months there will be a ceremony to elect the new head of the family, and by that time Chongun must achieve universal recognition. But if after this period nothing changes, Muchon will pass the role of head to his daughter, Solkva. In response, the astonished Chongun could only ask, why him specifically? Then Muchon had to explain that the second son, Chonghai, was overly greedy for power, which clouds judgment and leaves him with no broad prospects. And as for the third son, Chonsan, he is unable to control his own anger. The flaw of Chongun is that he is too soft, but it is precisely for this reason that he values his family and is ready to do anything for them. That is why Muchon was sure that only his eldest son could lead the clan. When evening came, the leader went to the garden to secretly meet with Mugwan. He went away to meet the leader of the beggars sect in Yunani, but unfortunately achieved nothing. All that Mugwan found was a cheap tavern where no information was spread. And so he asked Muchon, could Solkva have been mistaken? And is it even possible to leave the clan without leaving a trace? However, in response, the head stated that the traces could simply be erased, and the kidnappers of Solkva would not hesitate to use even more brutal methods. And therefore Muchon was forced to admit that now they needed to call Mugen. However, Mugwan was not pleased about the imminent meeting with his arrogant brother. Then Muchon declared that they had no other choice. Someone was hunting his granddaughter, and anyone who knows the name Namgun must immediately respond to the call. Mugwan had never before seen the leader so formidable, and therefore asked, is he not going to start a war? And then Muchon admitted that if there was no other way, then yes, he was going to. However, the leader did not want to get ahead of himself and said to Mugwan at the end that he was too busy to focus on current actions. And when the swordsman asked in surprise what could be more important now, Muchon reminded him that tomorrow he would have to perform the key purification of his granddaughter. The next morning, the leader entrusted Moon and Mugwan to accompany Solhua to the Hall of Heavenly Enlightenment. Only Moon had heard that chi purification is accompanied by excruciating pain, and therefore was very worried about the young lady. But Mugwan was still offended by Solhua for poisoning him, and therefore demonstratively kept his distance. Solhua reassured Moon, reminding him that her grandfather would be with her, and he swore that he would do everything possible as long as his granddaughter believed in him. However, Chongun still asked his father if there was a reason for such haste, to which Muchon explained that otherwise the elders would try to dissuade him. At the end, the leader announced to all present that in 5 days he and Solhua themselves would leave the Hall of Heavenly Enlightenment, and then Muchon led his granddaughter to the huge bronze gates. As soon as the leaders touched them, the gates themselves began to slowly open. Chongunu with Mon and Mugwan could only wish the leader and the young lady good luck. and soon they both entered the huge cave, and the gates closed behind them. Muchon ordered his granddaughter to kneel down and, standing behind her, warned that he was about to make the suggestion technique go out of control, so Solhwa should not resist and go with the flow. In response, the girl warned that because of this she might attack the leader, but he calmly stated that he knew the consequences. Only Solhwa was also afraid that losing control she might reveal to Muchon the combat style of the Huaru clan. And if that happens, will everything remain as before? Will the trust built not collapse overnight? Therefore, Solhwa reminded her grandfather that she had asked him for help, and asked him to believe her no matter what. In response, Muchon assured that he trusted his granddaughter and asked her not to worry. In fact, it was the leader who should have worried the most, because the human heart is unpredictable. But then the fateful moment came. Solhwa declared she was ready, and Muchon immediately poured a huge amount of his own chi into her body. From that, Solhwa staggered as if from a shock and almost lost her balance. However, when the girl straightened up, her blue eyes filled with blood, and her gaze became empty, like a doll's. In the next moment, Solhwa emitted a sinister aura, and the air around heated up due to her thirst for blood. Muchon cautiously called his granddaughter, but in response she immediately launched an attack. However, the leader calmly blocked her strike with his palm. Then Solhwa gathered her chi in her palms and compressed it into a tiny cluster, and then she unleashed the entire concentrated power of this cluster on Muchon, but he deflected the attack with his own chi. It was then that Solhwa realized her opponent was many times stronger than her. Therefore, she made the most sensible decision, to increase the distance. In response, Muchon praised his granddaughter for the speed of her judgments, and ordered her to draw her blade. Solhwa immediately drew her sword from its sheath, but not because the leader ordered her to. Muchon knew there were only two ways to dispel the suggestion technique. Either the one who cast the technique would withdraw their ki, or the ki embedded in the body would naturally disappear. But since the first option was impossible, the leader was left with only the second, to resist Solhwa until the dangerous chi inside her body was exhausted. For this purpose, Muchon took the sword in his hands but did not draw it against his granddaughter. Solhwa swiftly launched an attack, but the leader parried her blade with the scabbard. Muchon assessed his granddaughter's fast style and was forced to admit that it would be difficult to deal with such a sword. Lacking brute strength, Solhwa compensated with speed, confusing the opponent and constantly changing the trajectory of her strikes. However, Muchon parried and deflected each of them, standing firmly in place. Then Solhwa decided to change tactics and quickly jumped back. Then the girl took a stance and began charging her sword with chi energy. Muchon was surprised that his granddaughter knew some sword techniques, and even wanted to see what she was capable of. And then Solhwa began to act. She delivered 6 strikes, performing the Great Snake technique. Even the leader of the Namun clan had to swiftly dodge such a move. But in the next moment, Solhwa caught up with her opponent and unleashed the Heavenly Wind technique on him. Only in the last second did Muchon manage to block her strike with the scabbard. But Solhwa had no intention of stopping there, applying the Azure Swallow Sword technique. Muchon launched an attack from above and recoiled backward to gain distance and buy time. He noticed that the basis of Solhwa's style lies in the fencing art of the Namun clan, but there are traces of deliberate modification of techniques. And when Solhwa used the technique of fangs piercing the heavens, that was when Muchon realized that this martial art was created to oppose the Namun clan. Solhwa put all her strength and the power of the blood demon within her into the strike, but Muchon once again caught the blow on his sheath and withstood it. However, then he switched from defense to offense and threw his granddaughter away with a sweeping strike. Solhwa flew backward like an arrow, and to avoid crashing into the wall, she plunged her sword into the ground. She managed to slow down but sacrificed the blade. The sword simply split in the girl's hands. Muchon no longer had any doubts. His granddaughter was raised and trained not as an ordinary assassin, but with a specific purpose, to destroy the Namun clan. Meanwhile, the commanders of the Yellow and Red Dragon combat squads reported to Jungha that the clan leader ignored the elder's advice and is now purging his reckless granddaughter's ki. Less than a month had passed since Solhwa returned to the clan, so the commanders feared that the girl had simply deceived the leader. However, in response, Jungha told the commanders that his father's will cannot be contradicted. Of course, Jungha was grateful to the 3 combat squads for their support, but the Council of Elders still hesitates, so Muchon still holds the clan in his hands. Nevertheless, Jungha calmed the commanders and assured them that although his father seemed compassionate, in reality he was very skilled in calculations. Jungha was about to continue, but the next moment some noise came from behind the door. Jungha called the servant, and he reported that guests from Hashan had arrived at the clan without warning. The news puzzled Jungha, but then he realized that since the leader was currently absent, this could be his chance to take the initiative. Meanwhile, the duel in the cave continued with renewed vigor. Having lost his sword, Solhwa returned to hand-combat, and the longer the battle lasted, the more Muchon was convinced that his granddaughter already knew the entire arsenal of Namgun clan techniques. Moreover, the leader understood that if the fight continued in the same spirit, he risked killing Solhwa. Therefore, he decided to end the duel by suddenly placing his palm on his granddaughter's forehead. And the next moment, a colossal chi charge burst from Muchon's palm. After such a strike, Solhwa weakly collapsed to her knees. And then Muchon told her that they had been in this cave for 2 days already, and for another 3 days Solhwa's body definitely would not endure. For this fight, Muchon saw a lot in his granddaughter, so he thought it would be fair if he showed something in return. With these words, the head of the Namgun clan drew his sword for the first time, and at that very second, a dragon soared upwards. And in the next moment, this dragon crashed down on Solhwa and passed through her, causing the girl to lose consciousness. But Muchon managed to catch his granddaughter and asked her to rest well, because when Solhwa wakes up, they both will have a lot to discuss. 2 days earlier, Namgun was visited by a trio of guests from Hashan, who turned out to be Master Namun and his disciples, Yufio and Yugen. The pretext for the visit was the joyful rumors about the return of the missing child. In the absence of the clan head, the guests were received by his eldest son, Chonggun, and he was surprised at how far and fast the news had spread. Namun explained with a smile that rumors spread faster than fire, and then expressed a desire to personally congratulate the clan head and the child. However, in response, Chonggun regretfully informed that the clan head had begun secluded training. To say that the news extremely surprised and puzzled Namun is an understatement. In that case, he requested a meeting with the found child, but in response, Chonggun explained that the girl had left together with the clan head. Moreover, they both will return no later than in 5 days. So Chonggun suggested waiting for their return in the guest houses. And now 2 agonizing days have passed. Boredly looking out the window, Master Namun admitted with annoyance that they had made the whole journey only to waste time. It would have been much easier if the swordsmen were truly guests. Then they could have simply promised to visit in the future and calmly return to MANHUA. But now they came to Namgun for the miraculous pill of rebirth, so the swordsmen could not return empty-handed. And Namun was also troubled by the question, why did the clan leader need to undergo secret training right now? But suddenly Yugen entered the room with a whole basket of rice cakes and declared that most likely it was about that child. Namun asked his student in surprise where he got so much food, to which Yugen carefreely explained that he simply asked the maid. The young man wanted to treat his mentor, but the latter was more interested in information about the found child. Then Yugen told that the child was the young lady of the Namgun clan, and her meridians were extremely unstable. Namun was surprised by his student's such awareness, but he quickly changed the subject, hastily stating that he had never seen anything like it before. Yugen told the teacher that in the young lady's body there were 3 different flows of chi, which were chaotically mixed together. One flow was very unpleasant, and the other 2 were incredibly pure. And in addition to everything, all 3 flows originally did not belong to the girl, as if she was a vessel containing 3 completely different objects. Having listened to the student, Namun asked the main question. Is it possible that among the 3 currents in the girl, there was Shaolin Qi? After all, if that were so, then the miraculous pill of rebirth had already been used. However, in response, Yugen admitted that he had never felt Shaolin Qi before, so how could he know? Was it really her? The answer astonished Master Namun, causing him to ask the student, why did he hesitate if he was not sure? In his defense, Yugen said that the teacher asked so casually, as if he was supposed to know the answer. But Namun finally lost patience and immediately expelled the student from the room. Left alone, Namun could not find peace, not knowing what to do next. But soon Yufio entered the room, forcing the master to pull himself together. The senior student told that during a walk, he accidentally met Mr. Zhonghai, and he invited guests from Hashan to a formal dinner. Namun found this strange, since from the very first day Mr. Jianggun no longer showed any interest in them. But on the other hand, sitting idle would bring nothing, and since they had plenty of free time, Master Namun decided to accept the invitation. Meanwhile, Solhwa was experiencing one of the most terrifying nightmares. In it, the girl was pursued by all those she had killed in her past life. The dead were reaching out to Solhwa with their hands, and she was desperately fighting them off with a sword. But suddenly a dragon burst into the nightmare, incinerating the horde of the dead with its flame. Then Solhwa was enveloped in a bright but very warm light. The girl came to her senses already in the arms of her grandfather, who kindly asked her about her well-being. Solhwa listened to her own body and felt lightness, as if a heavy burden on her shoulders had finally lifted, which meant that the suggestion technique had dissipated. Then Muchon did not beat around the bush, but directly asked his granddaughter, was she raised as an enemy of the Namgun clan? Instead of answering, Solhwa shyly lowered her gaze, which made the elder understand everything without words, and asked the next question. Have many people mastered the martial art of their clan? In response, the girl admitted that she had developed her own fighting style, having studied the techniques of the Namgun clan to destroy it. Now Mushan understood why the kidnappers were pursuing his granddaughter, for she possessed outstanding talent. But then the elder suddenly asked Solkva, would she help the Namgun clan? The girl was amazed by such a request. And then Muchan explained that her fighting style precisely identified the weak points of the Namgun martial art, so Solkva could help compensate for its weaknesses. It was then that the girl realized she had been so focused on concealing her techniques that she had never thought about improving the Namgun clan. And therefore Solkva confidently declared that she would do everything possible to strengthen the foundation of the clan. Muchan praised his granddaughter for her straightforwardness, but for others he suggested to say that Solkva had studied this fighting style after returning to the clan. Then the girl asked if they would believe it, to which Muchan assured that no one in the clan would dare to dispute the genius of his granddaughter. Solkva did not doubt her grandfather's words, and began to meditate in order to check her body and the flow of qi. Soon she informed Muchan that the curse energy had been completely eliminated from her body. However, although Solkva was able to reject the curse, her qi acquired a scarlet color, and it seemed she would no longer be able to become the blue sky. But Muchan calmed his granddaughter, stating that the color did not matter, and if scarlet meant the path traveled, then Solkva should think about how she would master her power from this moment on. And to open a new sky, the leader proposed to transfer to her the essence of his star. Solkva agreed without hesitation, and then Muchan filled her body with his qi. It was like a river flow, and if Solkva relaxed her vigilance even a little, then even her spirit could be carried away by the current. The girl concentrated, met the flow, and spread it throughout her body, even to the most remote points. Muchan was amazed at what was happening, because he had poured out qi accumulated over 60 years, but Solkva's body could absorb even more. The leader had met many talented people, but he had never seen a body in such harmony with qi before, and so he decided to pass the qi through the 12 main meridians of Solkva. And at that very second, the girl seemed to find herself amidst a clear sky and snow-white clouds. And when she opened her eyes, Muchan said with a smile that she had achieved great success. Solkva doubted the success, but now she began to understand where the spirit of integrity and incorruptibility of the Namgun clan came from. The granddaughter's words pleased Muchan, for she realized what even the elder members of the clan could not realize. Then the leader admitted that he had reached the peak of mastery at 20 years old, but his own granddaughter had managed to achieve it already at 13. And that means only one thing. Solkva was born possessing a heavenly body. This is the body of a warrior, granted by the heavens, and endowed with an outstanding talent for awakening qi and mastering martial arts. Only in her past life Solkva was not so strong. Had she had a heavenly body, she would have been able to reach greater heights. However, Muchan explained to his granddaughter that alien qi blocked the meridians that had already been opened. Then Solkva realized that all this time her strength had been restrained and suppressed by the bloody demon. But unfortunately, this strength was still not enough to fight him, so Solkva decided to wait until her claws became sharp enough. Meanwhile, Chongun and Mugwan were waiting at the gates of the hall. The young master had been restless for the third day, which began to irritate Mugwan. Finally, the swordsman could not stand it, and asked Chongun to calm down a little, since everyone in the palace was already on edge. The swordsman also reminded about the guests from Hashan and suggested sharing a meal with them instead of idly wandering near the gates. However, in response, Chongun revealed that none other than Master Namun had arrived in Namgun, the greatest swordsman of Hashan, nicknamed the Plum Sword. He even brought his student Yufio, who cleansed Sichuan of the Black Path sect. Previously, Hashan and Namgun had no relations, which means such important persons came not just to convey congratulations. They definitely have hidden motives, and do not intend to leave until they meet with the clan leader or Solkva. Then Mugwan suggested that the young master establish relations with Hashan instead of his father. But in response, Chongun stated that the more power a person gains, the more enemies he makes, so he is not sure he can protect his daughter. To this, Mugwan did not even know what to say. All hope remained only in Solkva, and therefore the swordsman began to pray mentally for her to come out quickly and break this awkward silence. Fortunately, his prayers were heard. The bronze gates suddenly began to open, and a second later, living and unharmed Solkva appeared in their gap. Mugwan was glad to see her, but Chongun was as if blown away by the wind. He immediately rushed to his daughter and began to ask, "Did something happen and why did she come out so early?" Mugwan was also puzzled by this fact, so he asked, "Where is the clan leader?" In response, Solkva explained that grandfather had used too much qi, so he decided to rest in the hall for a few more days. Mugwan was surprised, not by the words, but by the fact that he felt from the girl a more stable and powerful qi than before. In just 3 days, Solkva reached the peak of mastery. Mugwan could not help but rejoice at this, and Chang'un almost lost the power of speech. But then he pulled himself together and informed his daughter about guests from Hashan who wanted to meet with her. However, in response, Solkva admitted that they came for the miraculous pill of rebirth, which she had eaten. But then the girl suddenly asked Mugwan to keep the fact that she had already left the training hall. And in response to the question why, Solkva explained that during the remaining 2 days a replacement for the miraculous pill needed to be found. Chang'un and Mugwan were amazed at the girl's eagerness to set out immediately after completing the purification ritual, and they both agreed that they could not let Solkva go on the search alone. Then the girl directly asked who would go with her, to which Mugwan declared that it was Chang'un's duty as a father. But at parting, the swordsman asked both of them to return in 2 days, even if they found nothing. Meanwhile, Changha shared a meal with Master Namun. At dinner, the young lord asked the guest if he had heard about the child who was a disciple of the blood demon, but stole the miraculous pill of rebirth and fled with it to Namgun. In response, Namun called these rumors very strange, and also asked if Changha wanted to say that the Black Cloud sect possessed the Shaolin relic. Then the young lord hinted that the master and his disciples came to Namgun precisely because of the relic. But as soon as Changha fell silent, he immediately felt the fierce aura of his interlocutor and a terrifying pressure. And then Master Namun advised Changha not to scatter words as if already knowing the truth. The young master assumed that the Hashan clan would not have dealings with the Namgun clan unless the latter possessed a miraculous pill, and if the guests were allowed to leave empty-handed, the relations between the two clans would end, and Changha could not allow that. Therefore, with a polite smile, he asked the master for forgiveness for his hasty assumptions. Namun accepted the apology and, since it had come to this, asked directly, "Does Chang'an know where the pill of rebirth is located?" In response, the young master admitted that he knew nothing about the pill. However, he then asked, what if the Namgun clan offered something comparable to the pill of rebirth? Master Namun had never heard that the Namgun clan had anything like that. Then Chang'an explained that even if the clan did not have the relic right now, his people could search the entire province. But even if they could not find the elixir, the Hashan clan would still lose nothing because of it. Therefore, Chang'an asked the master, would he accept his offer? And then Namun answered the question with a question. What does the young master want in return? Meanwhile, Solwa and her father were heading across the plain toward the mountains. On the run, Chang'un asked his daughter what exactly she wanted to find, and then Solwa explained that she was looking for the heavenly bow with the head of a turtle. Chang'un had heard about this treasure hidden by the legendary thief. He had also heard that whoever found the heavenly bow would be able to rule the whole world. Chang'un considered these just rumors created to fuel human greed, but his daughter disagreed with him. In Solhwa's past life, she was a person who managed to pass the labyrinth of the legendary thief of 10,000 li, which means the heavenly bow exists. And if Solhwa were that very legendary thief, she would have hidden the bow on a mountain shaped like a turtle with its head held high. And if you take the heavenly bow literally, it is a rainbow, but there is no place near the mountains where it can appear. But Solhwa had heard that in this area one can see a certain red bridge. At his daughter's words, Chang'un was horrified because he had also heard about this place and knew why the bridge was called red. And in the next moment, he drew his sword and with one swing beheaded the enemy who dared to attack from behind. It turned out to be a monster called a demonic monkey. Unfortunately for Chang'un, his suspicion was confirmed. This area was the territory inhabited by demonic monkeys. And soon Solwa and her father found themselves surrounded by a whole pack of angry monsters. Chang'un asked his daughter if it was worth risking her life for the heavenly bow. But Solhwa confidently stated that together they could handle the enemies. Then Chang'un explained that he was worried not about his own life, but about his daughter's life, and asked her to be careful. And in the next moment, father and daughter scattered to divide the opponents into 2 groups. Several demonic monkeys attacked Solhwa in a group, but the girl struck them down one by one with her sword. But suddenly, in the heat of battle, she remembered that a strong human desire gives birth to spiritual beasts, and strong malice to demonic animals. These creatures are born feeding on resentment, and in the red eyes of the monkeys Solhwa saw only endless hatred towards people in the whole world. Therefore, she swung her sword above her head without regret, preparing to finish off her enemies with one blow. She also became curious about who would win when malice and resentment clash with each other. But when Solhwa brought down the sword with all her strength and fury, she realized that neither malice nor resentment would ever fade within her. Soon the last opponent fell to Chang'un's sword. Solhwa was forced to admit that the monkeys were more persistent than she had expected. Chang'un agreed with his daughter and said with annoyance that it would be nice if demonic beasts knew how to surrender. However, Solkva explained to her father that even possessing intelligence, demonic beasts will not run away because they know very well how cruel humans can be. Chang'un asked where his daughter had learned such an unpleasant truth, But in response, Solkva stated that it was already obvious why demonic monkeys appeared. The dessert made from monkey brains is very famous and is eaten while the monkey is still alive. Therefore, Solkva asked her father, "Why do people eat the brains of animals if there are so many delicious dishes in the world?" But something crunched under the girl's foot, and when she looked down, she saw a pile of bones. Chongun approached his daughter and noticed the entrance to a cave hidden behind the willow leaves. But there awaited them a whole cemetery. Examining the bones, Chongun determined that they belonged to infants, and most likely the monkeys collected their bodies here. Solkva asked her father why, and he suggested that in this way the monkeys wanted to hide the bodies of their infants from hunters. Hunting monkeys in winter is very difficult because, escaping the cold, they go deep into caves. After these words, Solkva realized that she was mistaken in her assumptions. Dessert made from monkey brains is a summer dish. It is precisely at this time that beast hunters begin to hunt. And so the bloody bridge is not a rainbow, but a mist that forms when splashes of blood from the bodies of monkeys evaporate in the sun. Chongun found this story terrible, but his daughter admitted that she had no other place in mind. And then Solhwa suddenly asked her father, "Why is he so worried about the demonic monkeys?" Then Chongun confessed that even the sight of demonic beasts hiding the bodies of their young aroused pity in him. All because Chongun understood this feeling when you hear the cry of a lost child again and again. After all, 8 years ago he himself lost his daughter. On that ill-fated day, bandits attacked the caravan that accompanied Chongun and his family. There were not enough guards against them, and Chongun was torn between the desire to help his people and the duty to protect his family. But his wife assured him that they would be fine as soon as the Yellow Dragon squad arrived, so Chongun should help the clan warriors. At farewell, Chongun kissed his wife and promised that he would return so quickly that Solhwa would not have time to wake up. And he kept his promise. He returned as fast as he could. But by that time his family had disappeared, and the Yellow Dragon squad was wiped out. The only survivor was the squad captain Horak. With his last strength, he pointed in the direction where the attackers disappeared along with Solkva. Chongun immediately rushed after the kidnappers, praying to all the gods that his daughter was still alive. And soon he caught up with the kidnappers at the edge of a cliff. Without hesitation, Chongun engaged them in a fierce battle. But then something happened that he could not have foreseen. One of the kidnappers threw himself off the cliff along with Solkva. Chongun heard his daughter's scream but could do nothing to help her. By the time he finished off the last enemy, Solkva's scream had ceased. That day Chongun's world collapsed and all he could do was scream in horror and grief. Chongun never thought he could lose everything in an instant, all because he was arrogant and let his guard down. But then Chongun shamefully hid his gaze from his daughter and admitted that if she had not returned, he would have gone mad with grief. However, Solkva asked her father, "Has anything changed now?" In response, Chongun said in surprise that now, of course, everything is different because he has finally found his daughter. But Solhwa disagreed with him because, in essence, she returned to the clan on her own. She was just lucky, but things could be very different from now on. Chongun swore that he would not allow his daughter to be harmed again. But then Solhwa suddenly drew her sword and asked her father, "What if she tries to harm him?" Chongun was confused by his daughter's words and actions. But in the next moment, Solhwa unhesitatingly struck him with the blade. Chongun barely managed to dodge the blow and asked his daughter in shock, "Why is she behaving like this?" But in response, Solhwa swung the sword again, almost beheading her father. Only then did she ask the question, "Has Chongun ever thought about what will happen if she is kidnapped again? And what if she betrays the Namgun clan or never returns at all?" Chongun did not know what to answer, and then Solhwa released a wave of chi with such destructive power that the cave began to collapse. Chongun and his daughter immediately ran outside, after which Solhwa advised her father to open his eyes because he still does not know how cruel the world can be. But in response, Chongun stated that he knew this well, which is why he gave up his ambitions and his status. The father's words angered Solhwa, and she advised him to draw his sword. Chongun was stunned, realizing that his daughter was serious, but he did not dare to draw his blade against her. Then Solhwa declared that she would never be safe with a father who had renounced the position of clan head and lived like a dead man. Such a man would protect no one, and in the next moment Solhwa rushed at her father in attack. But at that very moment, Chongun finally understood that despite the apparent anger, his daughter did not actually wish him harm. Therefore, at that very second, he blocked Solhwa's sword with his own. And when his daughter looked at him, Chongun saw her eyes redden from tears. Chongun immediately threw aside his sword and hugged his daughter tightly. And after some time, when they both calmed down, Solhwa suddenly asked her father, was she important to him? In response, Chongun assured her that of course she was important. But then Solhwa declared that she would not stand still and hide away in the clan. Then she looked into her father's face again and added that if she was truly important to him, he must follow her. Then in response, Chongun asked his daughter for forgiveness for making her endure such a weak father. And then he swore to Solway that he would also try to be a brave clan leader. And Chongun also promised his daughter that he would fight alongside her shoulder to shoulder, disperse the mists before her, and be by her side throughout her entire journey.